you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles on iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. Christine Leahy joining me. What will be the best show of the week?
I have something I'm so excited for you to listen to later, and I just can't wait to get to it.
I just want America to sit around for a couple of hours. We are loaded today. So much fun, great guests, strong opinions. Don't go anywhere. So I'm going to start the show with this, Christine. Don't confuse what you want to be true. I'm going to start with Packers-Eagles. Don't confuse what you want to be true for what is true. That's the theme of my opening today. We want a lot of things to be true. Just don't confuse those with the truth. So I watched Green Bay and Philadelphia last night. Philadelphia's out of the playoffs. Done. Over. I don't care what the stats say. I don't care about the sabermetrics. I don't care about the analyzation. I don't care about the magic number. Philadelphia's done. But a lot of people this morning are like, whoa, Green Bay is back, baby. Yeah, Pack is back. Really? Really? Philadelphia's offensive line was a hot mess last night. Already missing Lane Johnson, his replacement got hurt and was out. And then before the game, their right guard got hospitalized. He was out. Wide receiver, their best one, and they have bad receivers, Jordan Matthews, he got hurt early. They benched Nelson Aguilar because he's been mostly a bust. And you think that's a true test? Rookie quarterback, rookie head coach, offensive line's a disaster, and no wideouts that matter? And now you think Green Bay is back? Green Bay beat a 5-5 football team with an offensive line in shambles, no deep threat, and a rookie quarterback and head coach. And you're back. You're back to what? Being the San Diego Chargers of the NFC? You're the San Diego Chargers. You got a Hall of Fame quarterback, a couple of nice defensive players, overall average roster. That's what you are. The difference is San Diego's in a division with Oakland, really, really good, Denver, tough as hell, and Kansas City, a playoff team. That's the difference. If you're in that division, you're not a playoff team. The only reason you're getting in, potentially, because your division. Minnesota's falling apart. Chicago's historically a mess. So is Detroit, but this year they've won some games late. We didn't learn anything about Green Bay that we didn't know last night. We discovered that Aaron Rodgers is really talented. Yeah, duh. Like you didn't know that going in? And we also found out that Green Bay's got a good offensive line. Well, how many weeks have we been saying that on this show? Green Bay's got a very nice offensive line. But they can't beat a team like a Dallas that can throw the ball down the field or an Atlanta that can throw the ball down the field. I don't even think they'd beat the New York Giants, who I think are frauds. There's all these Packer fans that want them to be back. You're confusing what you want and what is. Last night didn't show us anything about the Packers that we already didn't know. Aaron Rodgers is super talented, and they have a good offensive line. It's not Dallas good. It's not maybe Oakland good, but it's a really, really good offensive line, especially pass blocking. But you still can't run the football. You can't run the football. That goes without saying. You have a weak secondary. You're beat up physically. Clay Matthews is about 50 to 60% of what he used to be. You generally have an average pass rush. And Aaron had to run so much last night, Aaron Rodgers, he got hurt and went into a magic 10th. So I didn't learn anything. Philadelphia is not a playoff team. Green Bay may solely because of their division. But don't confuse what you want to be true with what is true. Green Bay is not a very good football team. Let me move to this. Let me segue to my second topic today. And one of the things that I think, Christine, you would admit this, having worked with me for about 15 months, is that I try to not go too far left, too far right, too high, too low. Stay in the middle. Most of the answers in America are in the gray.
Completely agree with you.
They're not in the black. They're not in the white. Stay in the gray. They're not on MSNBC, and they're not to the far right. Most of the answers, what America really cares about mostly is closer to the middle. On right. One network, they'll talk about a bathroom. The other network, they'll talk about ISIS. You know what really matters? Can I feed my kids and get a job? And that's why we elected who we elected, whether I agreed with it or not. And I'm seeing this all the time. Everybody believes their side is right. There is no arguing. Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan are all absolutely sure their team should get into the Final Four, and there is no arguing my candidate is best. Do you know what Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan fans have become? Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, and Donald Trump supporters. All three are absolutely sure they're the only viable candidate. And the truth is, none of them are great candidates. In Wisconsin, you're Jill Stein. You want to recount. Let's be honest. Bernie Sanders was a small state socialist. Free college for everybody! That's ridiculous. Hillary Clinton basically hid from the media for a year. Didn't go to Wisconsin. That's ridiculous. And Donald Trump is Donald Trump. Mostly ridiculous. These were not good candidates. These were not all-timers. There was no Reagan here. There was no JFK. These were not good candidates. And Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan, you're not great teams. Ohio State, you knew this year was a rebuilding year. You returned 6 starters. Penn State, you lost to mediocre Pittsburgh and got beat 49-10 by Michigan. Let's just talk about Penn State for a second. And I love their story this year. I've gone on the air several times saying the biggest story in college football this year is the return of Penn State. That creep Sandusky's gone, Joe Pa's left, and this new group of coaches and players I'm rooting for. But you lost 49-10. I went and looked it up this morning. In the last 20 years, nobody has played for a national championship with a 39-point loss. In fact, in the last 2 decades, the 3 worst losses by teams that played for a national championship or won a national title combined don't equal 49-10. You have no business playing for a national championship. You lost to Pittsburgh and were humiliated by Michigan. Ohio State says, what about us? What about you? What about you? You returned 6 starters. Even your fans knew we're a year away. And you lost to a team that's playing in your own conference championship. You can't even get to your conference championship. Oh, Michigan. Michigan? Michigan? You lost to Iowa. And oh, by the way, you didn't just lose to Ohio State, and I thought the officiating was heart garbage too. But you do realize Michigan, with a lead, you got 3 drives in the 4th quarter. And you combined for 5 yards. The officiating was bad. You were worse late in the game. People are saying, well, okay, what about Wisconsin? What if Wisconsin beats Penn State Saturday night? Okay. And so their big wins will be LSU, so bad they had to fire a coach? Wisconsin, you're Jill Stein. Don't make fun of Bernie, Hillary, and Trump. You want to recount. What have you done? You were overwhelmed by Michigan, even though the score was close. You lost to Ohio State. And you had a lot of narrow wins. You're not a national viable top 4 team this year. And Ohio State fans are all upset if they don't get in. Ohio State fan, you're upset at Michigan for arguing they outplayed you and lost. But yet, that's the same argument you're making with Penn State. You outplayed them and lost. Memo to all of the top 3 teams in the Big Ten. Memo to Bernie, Hillary, and Trump supporters. Hell of a year. But don't kid yourself. None of you have a great standing, a referendum absolutely deserve to be in. None of you. The Big Ten had a great year. It's the best conference right now. The coaching is outstanding. The future is incredibly bright. Ohio State and Penn State bring back everybody. So mostly does Wisconsin. But I mean, it's incredible. When I watch politics and sports sometimes, get out of your echo chamber. Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State, none of you have an absolute argument to get in. I mean, God, Penn State, you haven't even won the Big Ten championship yet. You're already arguing you should be in. You've got another game, and it's going to be super close against Wisconsin. And Wisconsin's watching you claim you should be in the championship, showing no respect for Wisconsin. Don't be shocked if Wisconsin upsets Penn State. You're showing the Badgers no respect, as if they don't exist, as if they're a welcome mat into your house, which you own. And yet a 49-10 loss to Michigan. Nobody's played for the national championship in 20 years with a loss that's even close to that bad. No soup for you. Good God, some of these voters and some of these college football fans are absurd.
You're fired up.
It's incredible. They think their teams and their candidates are just, oh my God, there's nothing like Bernie. Yeah, you're right. There's nothing like Bernie. Small state socialists. Free college for everybody. Hey, Uncle Bernie, who pays for it? I mean, come on. All right. I got a lot of stuff here. I've got, much like Ed Orgeron at LSU, I brought a big binder. Did you hear that story? That story, I got to tell you that story next. That is incredible. I am going to give, I don't know anything about business, but I'm going to give you, anybody that's in business, stay in your car. Don't go anywhere. I'm just going to give you a little shred of business advice. It's the only thing I know in business. It's the only thing I know, and LSU is making me laugh. And I hope Ed Orgeron succeeds. I'm rooting for him. I'm the guy, everybody else said it's a ridiculous hire. I'm like, hire Lane Kiffin or Sark. You'll recruit, you'll win like 9 games a year. I wouldn't have fired Les Miles, but that'll be okay. It's not going to be Saban. You're not going to win national titles. It's not going to be Urban at Florida. It's not going to be Steve Spurrier at Florida. It's not going to be Nick at Alabama, but you'll win like 9 games. And people love you. And you are Baton Rouge. That's next. This time of the year can get a little crazy. Pulling in 15 directions at once. It's the holidays. So much stress with the holidays. Get your bulk items delivered to you. Isn't that so much easier? Boxed.com. As it sounds, BOXED.com. Just stock your house. They deliver bulk items to you. Stuff like toilet paper, paper towels, the big stuff, the headache stuff. One less thing to worry about in the holidays. And listen to this. Get all your bulk from your kickoff. Choose Visa and the Bank Americard Cash Rewards Visa credit card. Let you earn cash back on all your game day essentials. Visa everywhere you want to be. Okay, so here's the reality with hiring. I don't know much about business, but I know this. If you're a national company and competing globally and nationally, then you should hire a national CEO and a globally respected CEO. I'm rooting for Ed Orgeron at LSU. I like him and I know him. He feels like LSU, and I was told 2 weeks ago Tom Herman didn't want their job. He wanted Texas, and his second choice was USC. So he put a big fat number at LSU, $6 million. They said no thanks. He didn't want the job. He didn't want the job. So Ed Orgeron, to me, feels like LSU. They'll pay $2 million for Lane Kiffin or Sark, and I think they can win about 9 games a year. They're not going to win national titles with Coach O. LSU has fairly low standards, apparently, for their head coach. According to the Advocate, Orgeron blew away the LSU administrators because he brought a massive binder to the interview. Wow. Coach O went to Kinko's. Let's hire him. Once you become a national job, we have multiple examples. Hire a national coach. After Chip Kelly left Oregon, they had risen to a national program. Mark Helfrich is a local coach. He would not have been interviewed at the top 10 jobs of the country. West Virginia, after Rich Rod, they were competing with SEC teams. They were a national job now. They hired longtime friendly assistant Bill Stewart. He bombed. Miami had Jimmy Johnson, Howard Schnellenberger, Dennis Erickson, Butch Davis. Nationally prestigious. They hired Larry Coker. He wouldn't get an interview at Michigan or Ohio State. Ohio State gave the job for a year to Luke Fickell. He would not get an interview at USC, Penn State, Georgia, or LSU. Once you become national as a company, then seek a national candidate. LSU is a national gig. Les Miles is a national coach. You just hired local. I've said this about Tennessee. Butch Jones wouldn't even be considered for the other top 10 jobs in America. Tennessee has a local coach, a local candidate. That is a national job. I speak of this because I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. Washington, after Don James became a national job, they gave it to the longtime local candidate. Oregon after Chip Kelly. Oregon State after Ralph Miller. In my little neck of the woods, Washington football, Oregon football, and Oregon State basketball had risen to nationally prominent jobs, and they all went with a local hire. They're not the same. Ed Orgeron is a really nice job, but he's not beating Nick Saban, and he's not winning national titles. I am happy he got it. I knew they weren't going to get Tom Herman. I would have looked at Brian Kelly. I've said Brian Kelly is a national candidate. But it is a mistake once you rise in stature and can hire nationally, globally, to go local. The local sales manager that always buys a round of drinks. He ain't running it once you go public. I like Ed. I'm rooting for him. He used to coach Ole Miss. Here was a commercial that ran while he was at Ole Miss. I love Ed.
Hey, I'm Coach O. I just love my Hummer. I believe the Hummer is the best vehicle on the road. Big, tough, aggressive, and it represents everything that we want at Ole Miss. I have my Hummer. You need a Hummer. Tell them about it, JoJo.
That's a local football coach.
It's perfect.
Rooting for him, like him, good family, good guy. Jimmy Johnson once put him on his staff. He's a good guy, crazy Ed. And he's going to win games if he gets the right coordinator. Not going to win any national titles. LSU should vie for national titles. Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
Russell Westbrook and the Thunder beat the Knicks last night, and Russell Westbrook earned his third consecutive triple-double, which now means he is averaging a triple-double on the season, something that's only been done by 5 players this far into the season.
So exciting stats.
No. Let me finish. Oscar Robertson, he finished the entire season averaging a triple-double. Does this change your mind at all about Russell Westbrook?
Do you know the year Oscar Robertson averaged the triple-double?
I do, in fact.
Do you know what happened when he went to the playoffs?
What?
1 and out.
So what you're saying is...
Hey, a 6'3" dynamic point guard. Derrick Rose, John Wall, Russell Westbrook, Allen Iverson, Stephon Marbury. Let's do a nice 9-page spread in Slam Magazine. Ain't winning you titles. I went and watched the Warriors play Friday night. Okay, Kevin Durant is so much more impactful.
Yes.
So much better. So much. I mean, he's a 7'1" guy and the second best shooter in the league, maybe the first best shooter, and we're spending time on shrimpy guy who shoots 43%.
What's your beef with Slam Magazine?
I got nothing. All I know is I don't need glossy pictorials. Get me W's. I don't care about stats.
Slam is a really great magazine.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
all about stats at all.
Glossy.
I'll bring one in for you.
What, stats or a Slam Magazine?
Slam Magazine. The
best.
Very entertaining.
I like journalism. John, stick up for journalism here.
That's why you don't like People either, right? Because it's too glossy.
Hey, look at the Kardashians' new purse.
It's probably a good one. You should pay attention for it for Christmas. Earlier this week, or actually after the Cowboys game, Jerry Jones called Dak Prescott the daddy. And we were confused about it. Dak Prescott was confused about it. He said, I don't have any kids. I'm not sure what that means. But now, thankfully, Jerry Jones is going to elaborate on why Dak is the daddy.
Jerry, regarding Dak, what does the daddy actually mean?
At that particular time, it can mean the boss, it can mean dominated it, won. To me, that's an expression. I'm really shocked that anybody's having any problem with looking at a situation or looking at a deal, and anybody doesn't understand what he was the daddy in that deal.
He's right. How could we not understand that that's what the daddy
First of all,
meant?
Dak Prescott's reaction was awesome. It was, I tell you, the whole Dak thing, I still don't love his arm. He's not perfect size. I'll tell you what I like about him. That kid, every time you put a mic in front of him, he's perfect.
The perfect answer.
He's a grown-up. What he meant by daddy is he's the grown-up. He's the grown-up in the room. I tell you, Dak Prescott has blown me away. I have no problem admitting it's probably my second or third biggest whiff in the history of my career.
It is.
No, it is.
Yeah.
It's one of my biggest whiffs in my. I have no problem acknowledging. I thought he was a better Tim Tebow. I thought he was a great college guy. He'd come to the NFL and back up.
There's a famous tweet you have that keeps coming up every time you mention
It's a complete whiff by me. I'm shocked by it.
Does this make you the daddy?
I don't even want to go there.
And finally, I am so excited for you to hear this. This is what I was mentioning earlier in the show. Tom Brady was doing an interview with Jim Gray when his 6-year-old son, Ben Brady, got on the phone and took over the interview. And we got more information out of little Ben Brady than we do out of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick combined.
Did you watch your daddy play yesterday?
Yeah, he was playing against the green guys. I don't know what they're called, but they're very good.
How did you think your dad did yesterday?
Great. Flipped his chest.
He flipped his chest.
And he tripped, too.
He sure did. He got tripped a few times, didn't he?
And he got even more hurt.
More hurt? Wow. Maybe you'll tell us what's wrong with him.
I don't know. He's like a donkey.
In what way?
In a crazy way.
That's the cutest kid in the world.
Cutest kid in the world. And he said his daddy got hurt. I wonder what that means. Does he know more than we know?
I don't know. That's very funny.
Very funny.
Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
He was not only a Super Bowl champ and a 9-time Pro Bowler, but in the locker room that I covered, John Lynch, there's a difference between just a great player and a great presence. Hardy Nickerson and John Lynch ran that locker room. Whether they would admit it ever, humble guys, they did. John Lynch, let's bring him on, doing the Cardinals-Falcons last week. This week he's got the Rams and the Patriots. Dull against Dynasty.
Uh-oh.
So, I mean, honestly, Eric Dickerson comes out. And listen, when we have guys like you, we want you to be honest. And Eric Dickerson comes out and says really honest things, and Jeff Fisher is upset. Were you surprised at Fisher's reaction?
Yeah, I was. It's terrible optics. It really is. You know, you're talking about an iconic player in Eric Dickerson, and he's been critical. But you know that. It's part of this business, particularly when you're a head coach. It's a production-based business. When you're not producing, you should get called out. And so to react like that, now look, do we know the way everything went down? But it certainly didn't have good optics, and I think that's why the Rams were so quick to respond, because they knew that was a nightmare.
So I'm watching Carson Wentz last night, and Philadelphia's offensive line's in shambles, and it's a rookie head coach. And this is my opinion. I'm not a pro athlete, but I think their receivers are pretty marginal. Nelson Aguilar has been a big disappointment from USC. Could I make the argument you're better off through this mess now that you're out of the playoffs, sitting Carson Wentz, instead of getting beat up? I mean, do you think he's getting better?
No, I think he's regressing each and every week. I mean, we watched a guy come into this league in the first, I forget what the spread was, how many weeks it was. He was performing as well as you know, he was a top 5 quarterback in this
Dak.
league.
Yeah.
He really was. And I had him just 2 weeks ago, and I've seen a guy who's regressed each week, and I'll tell you why. I think now the offensive line problems are coming to bear, but before that, I think you're being kind by saying the receiving core is pretty marginal. It's bad for NFL standards. And so he's throwing to guys with zero separation. Everyone is covered, and so he has to be so fine. Now that's got in his head. And this is a guy who was ready to play. I think he's got a lot of talent. I think he's got it up here. He was NFL ready because he ran an NFL offense, but it's just too much pressure. Now you have an offensive line that's imploding. Now, when they can stay in games, like I saw him a couple weeks ago, and they ran for 200 yards, he's going to be okay. But when you're asking him last night, when you get behind, it's just a bad deal now, and he is going backwards. Now, whether you sit him or you just let him kind of take the hard knocks. I mean, I always think back to Peyton Manning having 25-plus interceptions, you know, his rookie year, and it turned out all right for him. So maybe, even though it seems like he's regressing, maybe taking some hard knocks this year is not a bad deal for him.
You know, I'm a believer that it may be a little old school, but you do a lot of your work as a coach at practice. Mm-hmm. You don't see Belichick being very animated. You didn't see Phil Jackson being very animated. Most coaches do a lot of that work on the sideline. So I saw Bruce Arians on that Amazon show before the season, and he is very animated.
Yeah.
And I watched this team kind of, you know, I'll say teams mirror coaches. I like Bruce, but he is a hot wire. You played under Tony Dungy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want you to go back to your career. Could I make the argument that Bruce's personality, which is so live, sometimes pours into his team and they become wildly inconsistent?
I think that's true. Although I think Bruce he's a one of a kind. I think he's great for the league because there's so much personality. I do think he's consistent, and that's always Bruce Arians.
Okay.
It's not
so it's authentic.
He's not putting it on. It is very authentic, and I think that's what I learned throughout this league. I went from one polar opposite in Tony Dungy to John Gruden. One guy never said the F word. The other guy said it every other word, But at the end of the day, people say they want to focus on the differences. I found two guys that were very, very similar, just had different approaches on how they presented it to their team. And so, I'm giving John a hard time there. It's just coming from Tony Dungy. But I think the one thing I learned in this league, you better be authentic. I think Bruce Arians is authentic.
Okay.
Now, I think you're right, though, about Bill Belichick. I always marveled. I played there for 3 weeks. And by the way, I think Tom Brady's in trouble because rule number one, Ben Brady, I think, just got him in trouble. You don't talk about injuries when you're with the Patriots, but that was cute. But you're right about Belichick. He coaches hard during the week. And then game time, I couldn't believe. Now, it was only preseason when I was there, how relaxed he was. And the favorite coaches I've ever played, that's how they coach you. They coach you hard all week long. They'll yell at you. They'll scream at you. They'll coach you up. They'll teach you. But game day, it's your game. Now you've done the work. Go play. And I think that's what the recipe, the secret sauce there. They put you through every situation. They put you through. You've thought about all these things.
Demanding.
And then game day, they remind you of a couple situations. They aren't berating you. They're just letting you go play the game. You've done the work. The hay's in the barn come game day.
This week you have Rams Patriots. I am seen, well documented, as a Brady homer. But I look at this team. Now, I don't think there are a lot of great defenses in the NFL. I think there's limitations with salary cap, and players now are more mobile with free agency. It's just hard. You can't be the Pittsburgh Steelers anymore. I mean, your Tampa defense is one of the last great ones, okay? If that team played today, you couldn't keep guys like you.
Right.
You'd all be moving around. But it's not just that I don't love New England's defense. I believe you have to make other teams uncomfortable. I don't think their pass rush and their linebackers, you look at tape.
Yeah.
I don't think they're athletic enough. I think they lost Jamie Collins. I think they lost Darrelle Revis. When you watch them on tape, are they a good enough defense to win a Super Bowl?
It's a great point. They also lost Chandler Jones, and Chandler Jones could get after an opposing quarterback. He's doing it in Arizona. So when you talk about dynamic playmakers, I think you have to have a little of that come playoff time. Now, the one thing, though, this kind of looks like a lot of the New England Super Bowl teams. I was doing a segment on Undisputed earlier, and that was the topic that we were talking about. Now, I asked for scoring defense because you can put up yards and
That's
all
right.
that. They're third in the league in scoring defense. So all those years that they won Super Bowls, they were about 15th, 11th, 19th in defense in terms of total yards, but they were always top 10, and in their best years, top 5 in terms of scoring defense. So this is their recipe when they make it hard for you to score.
Mm-hmm.
But I do agree with you. Who's dynamic on that defense right now? I don't see a whole lot of that. Devin McCourty's an excellent football player. Is he a game-changing football player? I don't know. I don't see a game-changing player. Collectively, they're pretty good, though.
9 Pro Bowls, a Super Bowl champ, John Lynch, NFL on Fox. So the Oakland Raiders have become a little like Atlanta, a team you just did.
Yeah.
Tremendous offensively, some limitations defensively, dome or warm weather. Let's see them late in the year. So I know you don't cover Oakland, but you do cover Atlanta. I think there's real similarities. You've got a franchise quarterback, and you've got really nice perimeter weapons. Atlanta, Oakland, if they are reasonably similar, can you win with those defenses?
Well, I think you can. And here's why. I think let's start with Oakland. What I've seen from them, first of all, it was a couple weeks ago when they went and I think it was against Denver, and they ran for over 200 yards.
Yes.
That showed me something because I thought about them, Derek Carr throwing it all over the lot. Then you put in 6 offensive linemen. They bring in a guy in at tight end, and they pounded the Denver Broncos. So that showed me there's some versatility there. When I look at their defense, they got a guy named Khalil Mack, and he's you talk about a dynamic, game-changing player. He's starting to play like that. A little slower to develop this year, But sometimes it just takes one of those guys. Then you look at certain indicators, turnovers. They're up towards the top of the league in that turnover margin. Third down, they're bad defense, but third down, they're really good.
Interesting.
And so there's some certain indicators that I look for that are boding well for.
They're situationally a good defense, is what you're saying.
Situationally a very good defense. And situational football is so important. It's what the Patriots have done better. You know, Belichick said something. I'm preparing for him this week. Tom Brady's the greatest situational football player he's ever been around. I mean, that's pretty high praise from Bill Belichick because situational football is everything for him.
Well, you're a Stanford guy. You were a very good situational football player. Go back to your career. When people know what the word situational means, was there ever a player you played with that rose? I always said this about Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter wasn't better in the playoffs. He just didn't shrink. He was a 310 hitter, and then in the playoffs, A-Rod, Barry Bonds, others went down a little.
Yeah.
Derek just maintained it. 7th game of the World Series or Tuesday in Kansas City in June. Was there a player, too, that you played with that you honestly thought he's better in crisis?
Yeah. You know, it's really interesting you say that. Warren Sapp was one of those guys. I mean, you know, there were certain mornings where it was everyone get out of the building. Warren's in a bad mood. You know, and sometimes it'd be right before a big game, and he's in the back of that D-line room, and he's fighting. And Rod Marinelli, the D-line coach, used to sit back there and smile. And I said, oh, my gosh, we're imploding as a team. And Rod would be smiling. I'd go to Rod at the break. Why are you smiling? This is when he plays his best, you know, when there was crisis. Warren seemed to raise his level of play. And so I think Warren Sapp's a guy that comes to mind. The great players, they're all that way. I played with, you know, I think the greatest players I played with, Warren Sapp, Derek Brooks, Champ Bailey, they were all best when your team needed it most. That's a certain quality that great players have. And so that comes down to situations. On third down, Warren understood this is the time I've got to be a presence. Derek Brooks was just always good.
Derek Brooks
and Champ Bailey made some of the most incredible plays that just made me drop my jaw over and over and over again. So that's what the great ones do.
I would be remiss if I did not ask you about the Denver situation. Everybody gets on the Rams because for a long time they didn't play Goff. But John Elway is not playing Paxton Lynch, and frankly, he's being beaten out by Trevor Siemian. So what is the message? Because we've talked about the Tony Romo Denver rumors. Do you believe, don't mean to put you on the spot, but by not playing Paxton Lynch, and they're in a dogfight here, John, this could be the toughest division in football. What is the message? Because you know the organization and John well.
Yeah, I did their preseason games. I did 2 of their preseason games, and I made the statement I thought they should have gone with Paxton Lynch. Because every time the guy went in, he made plays. And I kept hearing about, well, he struggles in the huddle. I said the way that the Denver Broncos think, they don't think about getting to the playoffs. They think about winning championships. That's the greatness of Pat Bowlen. That's the greatness of John Elway. They aren't making decisions to be competitive. They're making decisions to win world champions. A lot of people pay lip service. They live it. And so I kind of felt like with Paxton Lynch, this is the guy long term. You may suffer early. But then I did a game with Paxton Lynch when Siemian was hurt, and it was the Atlanta game. And I sat down with Paxton Lynch, and I said, what's difficult? We keep hearing about the transition. And he talked about the fact that they never huddled. He never huddled in high school. He never huddled at Memphis. And so I said, okay, but I get that. What's a big deal about a huddle? He said, well, it's not so much the huddle, it's communicating the play. I said, well, give me a play at Memphis. We put this on the air, and like your signature play. And he said, okay, it was 120 East. And he said, that's when they weren't just holding the card. My play was 120 East. And then I said, okay, give me your longest play here. He went 14 words, far west right slot, A right, shift to, and it went on. And he said, that's my hardest part, getting in and out. And so you do that, and then all of a sudden you get through that, and wow, people are moving all over, and it's moving. And so then I said, okay, now I think I get it. I still, though, wonder, would they have been better in terms of winning a championship? Because he has the skills where he can put a team on his back and go make plays, frankly, like John Elway did at one point in his career.
Yeah, his YouTube stuff, I didn't watch a lot of their college games, but it was remarkable. A Super Bowl champ, a 9-time Pro Bowler, John Lynch. I always love having you on the show. You tell great stories, you got great depth, and I appreciate it, man.
Thank you. Appreciate
it. We are just starting today, the herd hierarchy around the corner, and the one excuse, NFL fans, I'm not going to allow next in Los Angeles. It's the herd. So Ron Rivera in Carolina yesterday showed you how little trust they have in Cam Newton. There's 5 minutes and 15 seconds left in the game, and it's tied 32-32. Carolina's not protecting anything. They need to win this game or they're done. 4th and a yard. You have Cam. The Raiders' defense, lower half of the league, and the ball's at the 40. And you punt it. Wow. Does that tell you what Carolina, by their actions, think of Cam? Forget the words. I don't care about your words. Oh, we love him. Your actions are, I don't trust him.
Yes, he is inconsistent. He's had his ups and his downs. You know, I don't know. I think, for me, last year was the first year that I saw Cam with maturity and how he prepared and how he got ready for games, and it showed.
Now it's the second half of the season.
Yes.
Will I see the same Cowboy team?
They're built for success because they got 3 first-round picks on the offensive line. That's their strength. Because not only can they open holes for Zeke, they don't let people lay a hand on that. We saw the Ravens say, well, you know what? We're going to take Zeke away, and we're going to force Dak to beat us. And he did. And although he didn't have gaudy numbers, he made enough plays. He made every big throw that they needed him to make on Thursday. He made it.
If you're just going to have all these automatic qualifiers, you don't need a committee. You just check a bunch of boxes. Check, 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 check. You're in. Committees are created to make tough decisions. And a committee can look at Penn State and Ohio State. I think they're both good teams. And I think they're reasonably close. But I'm not going to be paralyzed. Christian McCaffrey for Stanford, I don't know if people are paying attention. His last 5 or 6 weeks, he has been a monster. He'll be joining us last hour as well. The Heisman race is wide open. People forgot about McCaffrey because he had a big TV game, I think, against Washington and didn't do much. He's had a remarkable 6 weeks. And, oh, by the way, he also goes to class. That is awesome. Christine Leahy's joining me. So I understand excuses. Right? Everybody wants to blame the refs. Everybody wants to blame the refs. And I get it. Michigan, Ohio State refs were bad. But here's the weakest excuse in any professional sports league by any fan base. Here it is. It is the weakest excuse. Let's stop it. We got a bunch of hurt injuries. We got a bunch of hurt players. We got all these injuries. Oh, shut up. It's the NFL. Everybody's banged up. Minnesota lost their starting quarterback, their star running back, their 2 tackles, and a star receiver. They're still in the playoff hunt. Indianapolis lost Andrew Luck. 3 offensive linemen have missed a game. Their top corner's been out. Their top pass rusher's missed time. Their second-best receiver's been out. They're still in the playoff hunt. Carolina and Green Bay fans are the biggest whiners in the world. Carolina and Green Bay fans think they're the only team with injuries. Stop it. This is the National Football League. Nobody is healthy. Nobody. Think about Dallas. Everybody. What about the Cowboys? The Dallas Cowboys, I don't know, lost Tony Romo for the year. They've had both of their starting corners and their 2 best corners, Mo Claiborne, Orlando Scandrick, out. Long periods, out. Their best safety, Barry Church, out a month. Des Bryant, out. Randy Gregory was supposed to be their great draft pick. Can't stay clean, out. Rolando McClain, linebacker, their most talented, out. Their offensive line in Dallas, 2 guys have missed multiple games. Dallas has lost. If I were to ask you as a fan, what are the most valuable positions in football? You would say quarterback, left tackle, cornerback, pass rusher. Dallas has lost all of them, multiple games. And they're 10-1. Quit whining. Packer fans, you're embarrassing. Panther fans, you're worse. Well, but Cam doesn't have... What does Andrew Luck have? The worst offensive line again this year? What does Andrew Luck have to work with? You've got an elite defense that's just missing Luke Kuechly. Calvin Benjamin's outstanding. Greg Olson's a top tight end. Jonathan Stewart's averaging 6 yards last week, and you wouldn't go for it on 4th and 1. Carolina, you deserve every loss you've had. Nobody in this league has had less to work with than Andrew Luck. He's got a GM who can't figure out the offensive line for 5 years running. They keep drafting wide receivers who can't catch. They once again lead the NFL in drop passes. They don't have an elite young pass rusher. They have 1 good corner, and he got smoked this past week. Yeah, Packer fans they think they're the only team that gets hurt. Everybody in this league's a mess physically. Herd brought to you by TrueCar. Save time and money. Download their app. Configure the new car you'll want, see what others paid for it, get guaranteed savings, save time and money. Download the True Car app today. So Eric Dickerson went on local radio. Jeff Fisher got caught in a little lie yesterday. So Eric Dickerson came out and said, basically the Rams have banned me because I've been critical. And I'm going to let you hear a little of Eric Dickerson, the Hall of Fame running back, who covers the team, went on this show and was critical of the Rams.
As long as you head coach, you don't ever have to worry about ever seeing me at a Ram game again. So I said, and that was the end of that call. I mean, I was upset because I'm like, how dare you have the audacity to call me with that nonsense? Like I told him, I played for that team. I bled for that team. I said, that's why I have the right. That's why I wear that Hall of Fame. That's my football team. You could go any place else, and I said, you can go back to the Titans. For all we know, you go back to the Titans, the Browns, back to SC. That's where your loyalty lies. I said, I will always be a Ram till the day I die. And he said, okay, Eric, man, thanks. I said, well, thank you. And that was the end of the call. That's exactly how it went.
Fox Sports Radio last night, Eric Dickerson. Now, Jeff Fisher was asked about the phone call and appears to be caught in a little bit of a fib.
I don't know where that's coming from. I had a really good conversation with Eric last week. And, as I did with Jackie Slater. And I had a good personal visit out here with Jack Youngblood. And we welcome the alums. We welcome the tradition and the history. And
He was welcome on Sunday?
He's always welcome, yeah. I welcome in the building. Love to have him come in. Love to have him come to practice. Love to have him come in the meetings. I mean, Eddie George has been in my meetings more than Eric Dickerson has.
All right, Dickerson saying Jeff Fisher called. Jeff Fisher said a lot of guys are uncomfortable with what you're saying. Here's more of Eric Dickerson on the conversation with Jeff Fisher.
The Ram fans, we don't have anything to scream for. I mean, L.A. is a city of winners. It's not a city of losers. I told them this when they came here. This is L.A. This is not St. Louis. You think you're the 7,000-pound gorilla? It don't work like that in this city. You got to come here to win. You can't come here thinking you're going to go 6-10, 5-11, and think the city's going to just jump behind you. It doesn't work like that.
I've said, listen, they're playing in the Coliseum for 3 more years, right? So it's an old, outdated stadium. It's a college stadium. So the optics aren't good, and you're boring. The Rams have drafted 28 offensive players under Jeff Fisher. 1 has been a Pro Bowler. They don't do offense well. And any criticism about that is incredibly fair and reasonable. That's a fair criticism. It may hurt, but that is not a cheap shot. That's a reasonable criticism, and that's what Eric Dickerson said. It's the hurt. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles on iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. Hunt your lunch. Herd hierarchy today absolutely loaded. I mean, that first hour was moving, baby. It was warp speed. This one could be faster. Christine Leahy is joining me. She is still just all aflutter over Russell Westbrook's enormous stats.
I mean, averaging a triple-double is pretty amazing.
Amazeballs.
Just get some other players around him, and he'll be great. The team will be great.
Yeah, he had one around him. Ran him out of town because he wouldn't pass to him.
You and I agree on that.
Hey, I'm 6'3". I dribble all game long. Here's one shot. Give it back to me. Dribble.
6'3"? Now you're running for being 6'3"?
I'm anti-6'3" dynamic point guards that shoot 43%.
He's taller than you.
Yeah, but I'm an idiot. He's an NBA star. I blah, blah, blah into a microphone, okay?
And he just averages a triple-double, no big deal.
Yeah, and as he's averaging a triple-double, his superstar's on the wing going, hello!
Yes.
By the way, LeBron could average a triple-double, but LeBron has self-awareness, and LeBron wants to include everybody, and he's not a stat hog. LeBron James can get a triple-double every night. He's not interested in that. LeBron James wants to win games. Russell Westbrook wants trophies. Like, Most improved and Stat Monster and a 9-page Stat Monster annual trophy and a 9-page layout in Slam magazine. Some people want to be in People magazine and some people want to win the Oscar.
You got to stop with Slam.
Some people want to win the Oscar and some people want to be in People magazine. That's the difference.
I'm bringing Slam magazine tomorrow. We can review.
So here's a fundamental truth about college football. There are 8 to 9 seminal programs that when they have the right coach, they get the best players. You know who they are. I don't need to name them. USC, Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Miami Hurricanes, Florida State, those kind of programs, right? So Jim Harbaugh got fined $10,000 for ripping the officials. If you did not see the tape, here's the tape of Jim Harbaugh. I'll tell you why this is gloriously good. This is unbelievably good for everybody involved. Roll the tape.
I'm bitterly disappointed with the officiating today. That spot, the graphic display is the interference penalties. The one not called on us, on Grant Perry, clearly was being hooked before the ball got there. And the previous penalty they called on Delano Hill, the ball is uncatchable and by the receiver. See, I'm bitterly disappointed in the officiating. Can't make that any more clear. It was not. My view of the first down was it was that short.
That is great for college football. It is great for the Big Ten. Jim Harbaugh has got the country watching the Big Ten. You know who's part of that country? Young players who run a 4.40 that can choose between Auburn or Michigan. Jim Harbaugh is waving that Big Ten attention flag. This is great for the conference. Here is a fundamental truth. It's nice if Volvo and Subaru and Jaguar and Kia are selling cars. But if Ford and GM are selling cars, baby, the economy's on track. It's great if Magic Mountain and Busch Gardens and Six Flag theme parks are showing profits. But if Disney theme parks are rolling, the economy is good. The problem with the SEC, you got 5, 6 blue blood programs. Alabama's great, but Tennessee, Georgia, LSU, and Auburn, wobbly. Right now, the Big Ten, the 3 schools, the Ford and GM that have to be good are Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State are not only loaded, are not only bringing everybody back at Penn State and Ohio State, they've got great coaches. If Utah's winning the Pac-12, baby, it's because USC is down. And if TCU's winning the Big 12, it's because Oklahoma and Texas are down. There is a fundamental truth in college football and our economy. Ford and GM are the blue bloods. Knock yourself out, Kia. I love you, Subaru. But if Ford and GM are in 5th and 6th place, we got trouble. And right now, the Big Ten has the best coaches in college football, is getting the most attention in college football, and all the traditional powers have great coaches. And for the record, Wisconsin and Michigan State are a notch lower, but they have tremendous coaching staffs. So this conference is on fire, and Harbaugh yelling, screaming, complaining is tremendous. They are the most watched and talked about conference right now in America. Good for them. All right, it is time via the Cowherd Global Satellite Network to go to New York. Schrager, Peters is first name, Fox NFL Insider. First of all, the Giants are fool's gold, and you covered the Giants last weekend, and you're in New York. So you tell me, Lombardi calls them, well, what does Lombardi call them? He calls them the Ponzi scheme of the NFL. None of the numbers make sense. How are the Giants winning, Schrag?
Yeah, look, Mike is going to call him Bernie Madoff all he wants. The truth of the matter is they're 8-3. I don't care how the sausage is made. The hot dog's there right in front of me. And for Giants fans, they've been down this road. Colin, they know. They've seen Todd Collins come into Giant Stadium and beat them their Super Bowl year. They've seen Travaris Jackson beat them. So I think every Giants fan who's a realist thought they would lose either the Bears or Browns game. But they're getting it done, and that defense is getting better and better every week. Jason Pierre-Paul was not himself last year, and he wasn't himself the first 6 weeks of this season. He's coming on. I was there. They didn't blow out the Browns. They don't blow out anybody, but they win games, and I don't know what Lombardi's looking for. If he's looking for giant blowouts, he can go watch you can watch the Mountain West. In the NFL, if you win by 7 points, that's a good win.
All right, I hear that you were blown away by the Packers last night. You're in your glory. What did you see last night that we didn't know about the Packers?
I wonder if that West Coast sun is doing something to your vision, because it's eye of the beholder. And I'm watching Roger. Look, Derek Carr hurts his pinky. He comes back in the game. We act like he overcame 6 heart attacks, and he's okay, he hurt his pinky. Aaron Rodgers hurts his hamstring, comes out here. He's without Jake Ryan. He's without Blake Martinez. You mentioned all those injuries. But let's just not take what Aaron Rodgers is doing for granted. He's first in the league in total yards, passing touchdowns the last 6 weeks, and he's doing it with paper clips and thumbtacks and sticks of glue as his weapons. He's doing amazing things, and I also don't want to take Mike McCarthy for granted. Look, they both came in the same time, Sean Payton and Mike McCarthy. Sean Payton goes 7-9 in the last 2 years. Saints fans are tripping over themselves to give him a contract extension and make sure he never leaves town. Mike McCarthy goes to the playoffs every single year, no matter all the roster turnover they have. Don't be so spoiled, especially Packers fans who want to get rid of McCarthy and say there's something wrong there. The Packers are 5-6. They're in the thick of this, and they still have to play both the Lions and the Vikings again. I think that the Packers are just hitting their stride, and last night was vintage Aaron Rodgers that we should be appreciating, not tearing down.
Listen, I'm sometimes critical. I say he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think he has got a little bit of an attitude. But I said this before, Mike McCarthy would be unemployed for 5 minutes. I'm not anti-Packer. I just saw what I know they are. Good offensive line, great quarterback. Now, let's go to Dallas. Now, we all know Dak and we all know Zeke. But you've been around this team. Who should we give credit to in Dallas that we're not giving credit to?
Colin, I think you and I both appreciate Jerry Jones. And there's this thing in the media, and I'll look at the other network that we're not talking about, but it's when he's on the sideline, everyone says he's meddling, he's doing things that he shouldn't. Why is the owner doing interviews? And yet when the Cowboys win games, it's Dak Prescott's awesome and Zeke. Let's give a little bit of credit of how this team was built. Not just Jerry Jones, not just Stephen Jones, but a guy named Will McClay, who runs the scouting department in Dallas. He's a guy that, from all accounts I've heard, was really pushing for Martin when a lot of people in the room were pushing for Manziel a couple of years ago. He's the one, I'm told, who said, hey, I know that, we want to go for Paxton Lynch. We're going to trade up and trade. If it doesn't work out, Dak Prescott's there. So there are a lot of people who helped build this organization, and I am going to give credit to Jerry Jones, because when things go bad in Dallas, we say, well, why is Greg Hardy on the team? Jerry Jones is horrible. Why is he giving interviews? But when they're winning, it's all about Jason Garrett. It's all about the players. Let's give a little respect to what happened upstairs, because from top to bottom, whether it's Anthony Brown, a 6th-round rookie out of Purdue, covering elite receivers, they have talent from all over, guys like J.J. Wilcox, and these are the guys that need to be respected, because Jerry Jones, whether you say he gets in the way or not, he didn't get in the way of having a 10-1 team right now who look pretty darn good.
Yeah, and the best offensive line easily in the sport. All right, finally, Bill O'Brien. There are times when you say things because you have to. But, Peter, they would have to acknowledge they paid $72 million for a guy, and he can't play, right? Like, does Bill O'Brien, he didn't select him, right? It was the general manager that selected him?
No, look, Bill O'Brien, I told you guys this during the free agent period, that Bill O'Brien never spoke to Brock Osweiler, never met Brock Osweiler, and he gave him a $72 million engagement ring. Imagine doing that with a woman, Colin. Imagine never meeting her, and you find her online, and you say, yeah, I heard some great things. You're great on paper. Let's bring you in. That's what they did. But here's the issue. It's almost like sunk cost versus, well, what does it say for the rest of the organization? So you did invest $72 million in him. The other guy is Tom Savage in that locker room. I've heard Mike Lombardi on your show, I believe, say that he thinks Tom Savage is the better quarterback. John Elway let Brock Osweiler walk and was willing to go with a 7th-round guy at a Northwestern who split time at Northwestern and Trevor Siemian, overpaying for Brock Osweiler. But it's at a sunk cost in the fact that, hey, we are 6-5 right now. Let's just ride this out. And what does it say to the rest of the team if you do bench him? So Bill O'Brien said, we're all in on Brock Osweiler, at least for this week. We're not going to make any changes. But I look at the economics of it, Colin. I don't know what it says to the rest of the team if you admit that, hey, maybe we didn't do it right here, and this guy's going to make all this money and be in our locker room.
Yeah.
It's a very unique situation with the quarterback. And if you look at just an Adam Smith, all the stuff with the economics, what do you do? I mean, what do you do? And that's a fascinating thing to see as the Texans season progresses, because there might be another guy in that locker room making a lot less money who might be giving you a better chance to win.
Your son, now you have a new baby, right? How old is the young child?
He's a month old, and he's seen the Cubs win a World Series.
Now, are you sleeping at all?
No. I'm up at 3:30 in the morning every day anyway, so no, there's no sleep. My wife is a saint, Colin, and I listen to you at night. I put the podcast on, so I've got something. It's great, though.
All right. Congratulations on that and your work. Thanks, bud.
I love you, Colin. Thank you.
You bet. Yeah, he's got a 1-month-old son.
You're so funny. You're like, how old is that child? Like it's an alien.
I've been there, man. Let me tell you, that first 9 months is rough.
You know what's even harder?
Oh, it's rough.
The 9 months in the belly, probably.
Oh,
I don't know, but I'm just saying.
It was just back rubs and milkshakes from me.
Good. For you or your wife.
No, her.
You gave her
the
back rubs?
Nicest I ever was. Yeah.
After that, it was all downhill. She just gave you the gift of a son.
All right. We got the herd hierarchy around the corner. We've got very, very funny Lincoln Kennedy. All Pro Bowler broadcaster. Our show is so good. I mean, it's 3 hours. You can't go anywhere today. I'm lively. I didn't even have a Red Bull today.
No.
I didn't even drink a Red Bull. She'll talk more about stats from Russell Westbrook. Stats. Sooner or later, your car's going to break down. It's the worst. Especially, if you don't have coverage. I don't care if you're a college kid. Cars are expensive. They're expensive. And unless you have a couple-year lease, you're out of that lease, or you buy a new car. I mean, I drive to work every day. Even in Los Angeles, which is a car culture, there's a lot of used cars. There's a lot of older cars. You can get smoked, burned, your finances dinged if you don't have extended coverage. That's where carshield.com comes in. I do not want to waste any time. I am so into this. I don't know if anybody likes it. We should do a test to see if anybody likes my herd hierarchy. It's 3 minutes of just glory to me.
No, they do.
I don't know if they do.
They love it and hate it, which is great. You know what I mean?
I do my homework on this. I don't mail it in. To make the herd hierarchy, you have to be great at something. I don't care about your record. So let's get to the herd hierarchy. My top 10 teams in the NFL currently today.
Herd hierarchy.
Time is now. Let's go.
The top 10 NFL teams according to college. Number 10.
When they're healthy on their offensive line, and they weren't this week but still won, Miami's a real football team. Okay, let me give you two numbers. Since week 6, third best running team in the league. That matters in December. And right now, opponents turn fewer third downs into first downs against Miami than any team in the league. Translation, not a lot of long drives. The defense is usually rested. If their offensive line goes into the playoffs healthy, they're going to win a playoff game. Miami, number 10.
Number 9.
Washington's the most underrated team in the league, not called Miami. Second in total offense, second in yards per play. They're a little bit, they've given Dallas 2 real games. Because of the division they're in, and Carson Wentz, and Dak, and Eli, nobody's paying attention to Washington. This team is capable of winning playoff games. They are incredibly productive on offense. Where they're not great is in the red zone. They too often settle for field goals. But they'll keep the football away from you for 2.5 hours.
Number 8.
Kansas City's won 18 of 21 games. And I'll tell you the Andy Reid effect. You know how many straight games they've won in their division? Now think about this division, right? Everybody thinks it's the best division in football. They've won 8 straight in division. If you don't think that's the Andy Reid effect, you're not paying attention. How do you win 8 straight in that division? They've done it. Kansas City 8.
Number 7.
I'm a doubter on Atlanta, but I will say this. Their pass defense is atrocious. So it's really going to be a struggle to close out games, because if they're leading, teams will throw and move the ball at will. But they're number 1 in yards per play, number 1 in scoring, number 1 in plays over 20 yards. They're like Arizona last year. Arizona ended up going a long way. They'll just outscore you, but their defense, I think, will be their undoing. Atlanta 7.
Number 6.
Not sexy, but Baltimore does some things really well. They do some things really, really well. Rush defense, number 1. 4-0 in division. Total defense, number 2. This team is a little like Kansas City. You're not in love with them. Not much of a fireworks show, but they're good in division. They're well coached. Terrific at home usually. And A quarterback that wins more games than you want to admit.
Number 5.
I can't sell my stock on the Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger's last 11 games in December, he's won 10. Here's the thing about Ben Roethlisberger. The great ones are better in crisis. He's been an unbelievable December quarterback. 34-14. And this team with Le'Veon Bell and Big Ben, the defense is getting better, is built to win late in the season.
Number 4.
I've been on the Raiders more than anybody else in the country that does this job. They've won 8 of 9. They win close. They've got a magician at quarterback. They have skill people. They have a tremendous offensive line. They're going to end up hosting playoff games, maybe all of them. And they're one of 3 teams, the Patriots and the Cowboys, that haven't lost on the road. You do get there's value in that. You respect Dallas, you respect New England. Raiders haven't lost on the road. It's hard to win on the road. They're unbeaten. Number 4.
Number 3.
Don't get too crazy about Seattle's performance. Okay, Russell Wilson's been hot and cold his entire career. He has stinkers. He has about 3 a year. They allow the fewest points in the league. You're not going to beat them at home. They have a tremendous head coach. And in the biggest games, not Tampa Bay, in the biggest games, Russell Wilson makes plays. Seattle, great roster, number 3.
Number 2.
Again, Brady, Belichick late. They only allow 17 points a game. So for all their flaws defensively, that's 3rd in the league. Now, Gronk, I believe they're going to be bumpy for the next couple of weeks. They're not going to play Gronk, which means they're not as good in the red zone. But Sunday's a prime example. They can be outplayed for 45 minutes and win football games on the road. That's why they're number 2.
Number 1.
Right now, the most consistent team I see is Dallas. And they're doing it with banged-up corners, their best safety out, and they've had multiple injuries on the offensive line. Listen, go watch their first 2 drives of every game. It's a steamroller. They are the 2nd-best running team in the league. Only team running the ball more than passing. So you have to say they're built for late-season football. And I've always thought Jason Garrett is better than the public prescribes he is. There is my herd hierarchy.
Did you forget a couple teams?
Nope.
Or did you make a mistake?
I didn't forget any teams.
8-3 Giants.
What do they do well?
Win.
That's not good enough. Tim Tebow won. Mark Sanchez won. The New York Giants, what do the New York Giants do really well? Odell Beckham's great. What do they do really well? They don't do anything really well.
Yeah, you said you got to do something really, really well to make
Baltimore
it in your
does
hierarchy.
things. Atlanta, the Raiders, Kansas City, Miami. They do things they can depend on. But New York's winning games.
I'm not saying they're number 2. I'm just, maybe top 10.
Who else bothered you?
Denver. Remember that team that won the championship last year?
Yeah. Who else they play?
Do they not? They rush the passer great, don't they? That's something they do really well.
Yeah, and they're usually on defense because they can't maintain a drive because Trevor Simeon's the quarterback. You forget about. Let me guess. You want Green Bay in there too? Want Green Bay in there?
No.
All right. I'm not in the mood today. I'll fire back. Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
Eric Dickerson says the Rams banned him from the sidelines. Jeff Fisher says that's not true. But what we know now is the Rams COO, Kevin Demoff, he posted something on Twitter replying to all of this. And he said, quote, "All Rams alumni, and especially Eric Dickerson, are always welcome at our games and practices. I've reached out to Eric to see where a miscommunication may have occurred and to clear up any confusion over his presence at games. Most importantly, I want to make sure he knows that he is a valued member of the Rams family. We all share his love for our team and fans." Now, I want to disagree with you here on something. I think Eric Dickerson can say whatever he wants as a radio personality.
Yes, I agree.
But you then cannot also be on the sidelines. Choose your role, right? He's an analyst, but then don't say you're part of the Rams family and you want to be on the sidelines at the same time. You can't be both.
Yeah, I've always been kind of...
Because if you're part of the Rams family and you truly want what's best for them, then you're not going to say all these things publicly. You're going to go and you're going to help them privately. I understand he's a radio personality, so you have to say what you feel, but don't play both.
Okay, well, so what if Troy Aikman goes to a Cowboy practice?
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
If he's not there every single game, wanting to be on the sidelines like one of the guys,
because I know with Troy Aikman, I know with John Lynch, they have built friendships in this league. I'm okay with them having access that I don't have.
Sure. But it's different. They're not trying to be one of the guys and they're every weekend and it's still part of the family, like in that same way.
Well, is Eric? I'm not sure. Is Eric Dickerson trying to do that? I don't know.
If you're on the sidelines every game, yes.
All right, fair enough.
Okay. I'm glad we can come to a conclusion
Yeah.
on that. Okay, so Jim Harbaugh, we showed this earlier, but I'll play it again for you, went off on the officials after their loss to Ohio State. Here it is.
I'm bitterly disappointed with the officiating today. That spot, the graphic displays the interference penalties. The one not called on us, on Grant Perry, clearly was being hooked before the ball got there. And the previous penalty they called on Delano Hill, the ball is uncatchable and by the receiver. See, I'm bitterly disappointed in the officiating. Can't make that any more clear. It was not. My view of the first down was it was that short.
I don't think he's necessarily wrong on this stuff.
No, so he made it very clear. Now the Big Ten is making it clear that they don't agree with it. They fined Michigan $10,000 and publicly reprimanded Jim Harbaugh. And they said this is the reason why. Quote, they expect all contests involving a member institution to be conducted without compromise to any fundamental element of sportsmanship.
Yeah, but why don't you put better officials in the game, not guys that have been fired for stinking?
Okay, so you don't think he should rein it in?
No, I'm just saying he was authentic, and I like authentic people. I'm okay with the coach being authentic, and I understand the fine, but that game was poorly officiated. And I don't have any dog in the fight, but Harbaugh yelled and screamed at me, so... But that game was poorly officiated.
Okay.
That was a rotten job by that crew.
So finally, then tell me if you think this is authentic. It's been a while since we've seen a Nick Saban outburst, so he is overdue for one.
Okay.
And here is what happened when a reporter asked him whether or not losing is considered acceptable.
You all put everything about the playoffs, man. That's all you care about. You don't care about any bowl games. You don't care about any teams in the country that aren't in the playoffs. I don't know. If we don't win this game, maybe we throw a stink bomb out there. Maybe we don't get in the playoffs. I don't know. You guys got all the answers to all that, but I don't. All I know is if we play and we play well, we control our own destiny in terms of what we do. So I'd really rather not have any more questions about, is it okay to lose this game? It's never okay to lose a game.
And I wanted to ask about Jalen. He's done.
You should have asked that first.
I totally agree with him, by the way. I'll go into it later, but he's right. If you don't get in your Ohio State and you just have to play in the Rose Bowl against USC, that's a hell of a season.
Mm-hmm.
And these are college kids. USC is going to go to the Rose Bowl. They've won like 8 straight games. They've got kids that are getting a great education. They've won a ton of games. It's been a tremendous year, especially when you consider September. We've got to stop making college football all about one game at the end of the year. The Fiesta Bowl, the Rose Bowl. These are great experiences for kids, and Nick's totally right about that.
Probably one of his more subdued rants.
And more accurate rants.
Yes, agreed. That's
Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
I thought it was a great opportunity. We've been trying to get Lincoln Kennedy on, a 3-time Pro Bowler, Raider radio sideline reporter. He's been doing Fox Sports Radio on Saturdays for a long time, and he was a tremendous player. And now he's a color commentator for the Raiders and the Pac-12. So he does college and pro via the Cowherd Global Satellite Network. Lincoln Kennedy joining us. So this is really interesting, and I think, Lincoln, first of all, thanks for coming on. What's interesting today is that Eric Dickerson criticizes a team, and the team fires back. How difficult, Lincoln, has it been for you to be critical of friends and coaches and players you know?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Colin. I think what's hard is for a person in my position or any former player that crosses over to broadcasting or becomes an analyst to remain impartial. I mean, most people think that because you're affiliated or associated with a program or a conference or institution that you're automatically a homer. And so that's where your credibility takes time and time to build. But look, I've told everybody who's known me and every time I've been in this business, I'm going to tell you the Raiders stink when the Raiders stink. I'm going to tell you they're playing well. I'm going to be critical of them just like I am any other team. I'm trying to stay away from that homerism. It's hard, but it's not impossible.
Yeah. Have you been called before by somebody, a player, somebody texts you and says, Lincoln, you're killing me here? Is it one of those that you get pushed back occasionally?
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. Especially when, as social media is, everyone has a voice, as you already know, Colin. And so when you talk about a team, if you're not talking about Washington or you're not talking about any other Pac-12 team, then I get people from Husky alum calling, well, this is your program. Why can't you show the Dogs some love? If I do too much of it, oh, well, you're a Washington alum. We expected it. Same thing to be said about the Raiders when you're trying to be critical of the AFC West and other teams around the National Football League. Everyone just says, well, you're a Raider. So I understand.
Lincoln, I love what I see from Dallas and Oakland, and I think Derek Carr and Dak are remarkable. I think Derek's ahead of him right now, even though Dallas has a better record. I think Derek's, he's played more games, he's a little more experienced, probably better at the line of scrimmage. But in both instances, I think the offensive lines aren't getting the love. What is when you watch as a Pro Bowler, the Raiders' offensive line and the Cowboys' offensive line? It's not just talent. What makes an offensive line great to you?
It's the chemistry. It's the wherewithal that when you need that 1 or 2 yard hard punch, that you can look these guys in the face and you can call a play and say it's going to get done. And that chemistry takes time to build. Look, you could throw all the money you want at an offensive line and think that they're going to come together. But I know from experience of playing on one of those offensive lines and obviously seeing this current Raider offensive line gel together, that it's taken time for these guys to find their own. And of course, Mike Tice has done a great job. The offensive line coach has done a great job with the Oakland Raiders because he's helped that chemistry along. They've had to mismatch with injuries, play a little bit of times around, but he's helped that chemistry along, and it's starting to work out well for the guys.
When you look at Derek Carr, when was the first moment, Lincoln, when you watched Derek Carr, could have been a practice or preseason game, when you thought, oh, okay, all right, this is different than just a quarterback. He could be special.
I remember watching Derek Carr after the Raiders drafted him and work his way up through the preseason. And when he got the nod for that Seattle game in preseason, how he played, you could tell he wanted to be the man. Now, it's not out of the ordinary to see a young rookie come in and want to be the guy, especially at quarterback. But Derek showed some passion that he was not going to be denied. He was going to do everything he possibly could. And I'll take you back to earlier this season. You remember the first game when they played New Orleans and he had that little scramble? Yeah. Well, he went up and over on the sidelines and came down and then gestured the first down signal. Those are just instances that I've seen Derek Carr through his whole career implement to the Raiders and the Raider fans to show that he is the man, he is a franchise man. And I knew at a very early time in his career that he was going to be a winner and be with the Raiders for a long time.
Lincoln Kennedy, a 3-time Pro Bowler, Raider radio sideline reporter. You know, we hear you're a guy that smart guy, had a career. You've been doing media for a long time. And whenever I get guys like you on who have segued well professionally, and I see football players now, the transparency, the CTE, all the stories. And I was telling somebody the other day, I said, you know, if I was a smart player, I don't think I'd play for 10 years. I think if I was a first or a second round guy, I'd give it about 6, and I would start thinking about other stuff. And I love football. Do you think if you played today, would you have played as long?
If I played today under the current rules, I played longer. I would have had a Jackie Slater-ish type of career, 20 years plus, easily. With the way they practice and what they're going through, I could have played a long time in today's standards.
So, I mean, the practices are way easier.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, they hardly make contact, which I think is a detriment in its own, but that's another discussion for another time. But, the limited amount of contact, I remember, we had some warmonger coaches back in my day, 3-4 hour practices, constantly hitting. I think that's a little over the top. But as an offensive lineman, I've always argued that I need to know what it's like to feel the pressure of an opposing defensive lineman coming at me full speed in pads in order to learn how to work my technique, manifest my technique, and, of course, stop him from doing his job. You can't do that in shorts and helmets, in my opinion. But, I mean, that's what the CBA accounts for these days.
Yeah. Lincoln, you went to Washington. Listen, if they win their conference championship, they're going to have one loss. It's to a very good USC team. They're going to get in. Clemson's going to get in if they win it. Alabama's going to get in. The Big Ten's kind of a mess. From the outside looking in, Wisconsin a couple losses, Penn State a couple losses, Ohio State lost to Penn State, Michigan a couple losses. If you had to pick a Big Ten team, and by the way, you'd have been a classic Big Ten player if you'd not gone to Washington because they're all offensive line generated. Is there a Big Ten team to you? Because we know Washington's going to get in, Clemson, Alabama. Is there one of them you prefer?
I wish I was as optimistic about the playoff picture as you are. I honestly think that it comes down to one spot for the ACC champion or the Pac-12 champion. I think two Big Ten teams are going to go in. Now, as a Pac-12er, I don't necessarily like it, but that's the way I think it's going to go. I believe wholeheartedly that Ohio State and Alabama are locks. And then you can make the argument after that, the Big Ten champion. Well, let's look at it this way. If Penn State wins the Big Ten championship, they beat Ohio State. I can't see the College Football Committee denying them as a Big Ten champion, especially as an emer, with the committee as the Big Ten has been this year. But to answer your question, I'm waiting for a day where it's equal representation from all the conference champions. I mean, we quote unquote have a Power 5 conference, but yet we only have 4 spots in the playoffs. So we all know they need to expand it. Naturally, I would like to say the Pac-12 champion should go in, but at the same point, if Colorado beats Washington this weekend, you can't justify making that big of a jump to where they deserve a playoff.
Yeah, totally agree. By the way, your son, Zach Banner, is going to be probably a first-round pick in the NFL, right or left tackle for USC, depending on where they needed him. What was the best advice you gave him to become an offensive lineman?
Whatever you do, always stay hungry, because no matter how fast you run or how much you can lift or how good you think you are, there's always someone better. So I remember telling Zach that you always have to stay hungry, and he's done that. He's had a tremendous career at USC.
Yeah, he can play both sides, left or right tackle. Lincoln, an absolute pleasure. Is this Raider team? Now, we know the defense is pretty average. Realistically, you're willing to be critical. Is it a multi-playoff win team? Forget Super Bowl. Can they win 2 playoff games? Are they that good?
I think they are capable of winning 2 playoff games because they've shown that they can win on the road. And coming into this season, I expected them to be a wild card caliber team. But I'm also reminded of my career with the Raiders. In 1999, we went 8-8 and narrowly missed the playoffs. The following year in 2000, we hosted the Baltimore Ravens in an AFC championship game. That may very well be the path these Raiders are on.
Lincoln, absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Colin. Thanks for having me.
Raiders radio sideline reporter, Pac-12 Network. You know, if you're at, it's funny about the Big Ten. If you just told me, who do I think's the best team? I think it's Michigan. I'll forget record. If you're asking me, Wisconsin, Penn State, Michigan blew out Penn State, Ohio State narrowly beat them and was controlled for the first 3 quarters by Michigan. I think Michigan's the best team in the conference, but they lost to Iowa. But, okay. The Seahawks were awful against Tampa Bay. New England looked bad this year a couple of games. In the NFL, professional football, you can stub your toe. In college, you stub your toe, you're a bad team. I think Michigan's the best team in the Big Ten. I don't think it's by a lot. And I think they had the opportunity. They turned the ball over 3 times in that game and had a pick 6. But if you're telling me neutral field, I think their defensive front is the most dominating unit in the Big Ten. I think their defense is better than Alabama's. I don't think they're as good as Alabama. I think they could play with Alabama. I don't think they'd beat them because they have a pocket quarterback. Pocket quarterbacks don't beat Saban. But I think Michigan's the best team in the conference. Well, Ohio State beat them at home. By the way, Ohio State, Penn State beat you when you were a road team. You think Penn State's better than you? I think Michigan's the best team in the conference because they have a dominating defense. The best unit in the entire conference is Michigan's defense, and their defensive front is nasty. It is all NFL guys. Every one of those guys in 3 years is in the league. 877-757-HERD. It's the Herd. Physically dominated Wisconsin. Ohio State had to hold on for dear life. Michigan humiliated Penn State. Penn State beat Ohio State. Okay, Michigan dominated for 3 quarters Ohio State and Columbus with bad officials. Michigan's the best team in the Big Ten. Ohio State second, Penn State third, and Wisconsin fourth. But, I mean, Penn State was tossed around like a crouton in a salad bowl. No team that's ever played for the national titles has ever lost 49-10 during the regular season. Ever. No team that's ever won a national title has been physically humiliated during their regular season. Michigan had 8 blowout wins, dominated Penn State, physically dominated Wisconsin despite the low score. So I have no problem saying Michigan's the best team. Just because they lost to Iowa, At Iowa Saturday night. Those are close games historically.
And maybe that they lost to Ohio State.
The officials didn't help there. Listen, I'm saying there's inches between all of them. There's inches, not feet, between all of them. But if you're asking me, because they all beat each other, if you're asking me who I think the best team is, I think it's Michigan. Michigan strangled. I mean, the Penn State-Michigan game was embarrassing. Wisconsin-Michigan was embarrassing. Wisconsin couldn't pick up first downs. They had like 8 in the game. It was ugly. And Ohio State for 3 quarters. Buckeyes couldn't move the football. So when Ohio State fans outraged by that, you're the same guy that's going, well, we dominated Penn State even though we lost. Well, that's what Michigan did to you for most of the day. I think they're the best team. By the way, we're getting more information on the Eric Dickerson situation with Jeff Fisher. Eric Dickerson told the Los Angeles Times, quote, I saw a 314 number calling in, so I get on the phone and I say hello. He says, hi, Eric, it's Jeff Fisher. How you doing, Jeff? He said, I want to call you. I want to tell you a few things. I don't have time for this, but I'm going to tell you. You're not going to be talking about the football team, talking about our team, talking about my coaches, expecting to get things from this football team. We're not going to give you anything. We're not going to support you in anything. As long as I'm here as coach, we feel uncomfortable with you coming on the sideline. The players are uncomfortable with that. So as long as I'm head coach here, I'm going to let you know it's not going to happen. Wow. Here's what Eric Dickerson said when he got the call from Jeff Fisher.
As long as you head coach, you don't ever have to worry about ever seeing me at a Ram game again. So I said, and that was the end of that call. I mean, I was upset because I'm like, how dare you have the audacity to call me with that nonsense? Like I told him, I played for that team. I bled for that team. I said, that's why I have the right. That's why I wear that Hall of Fame. That's my football team. You could go any place else, and I said, you can go back to the Titans. For all we know, you go back to the Titans, the Browns, back to SC. That's where your loyalty lies. I said, I will always be a Ram till the day I die. And he said, okay, Eric, man, thanks. I said, well, thank you. And that was the end of the call. That's exactly how it went.
By the way, the front office of the Rams today released a statement. This does not look good for Jeff Fisher, essentially apologizing for it and saying that he can at any time come to the sidelines. This is not good for Jeff Fisher. Let me tell you, I don't know Jeff well. I've always respected him. But let's be honest about this. Jeff is fortunate. First, he gets a job in Tennessee. It's a college football town. They're distracted. Then he gets a job in St. Louis. It's a baseball town. They're distracted. Now he gets a job in Los Angeles. It's a lots-to-do town. They're distracted. Okay, Jeff Fisher has been in 3 towns. What if he worked in Denver? He'd been fired. Denver, Philadelphia, football's everything, out. Green Bay, out. Jeff has been very fortunate. He has worked in towns where there may be only 3 or 4 of these in the country where the NFL doesn't dominate the local sports scene. The Cardinals do in St. Louis. College football does in Tennessee. And in Los Angeles, it's a Lakers town. And often in the summer, a Dodgers town. And in the football season, sometimes it's a USC town. So he's lucky that he's worked in 3 NFL cities. And they may be the only 3 where you have an incredibly distracted media and fan base. Because 5 years with the Rams, no winning seasons. They've drafted 28 offensive players, and 1's a Pro Bowler. That's on the coaching staff. That's not on the players. If you draft 28 anything and 1 is good, that's a institutional operational issue.
But at the same time, Jeff Fisher might not be the best coach, but just like how, he was able to go on the radio and say whatever he wanted to say, Jeff Fisher is very within his right to call him and say, this is not what I need to be dealing with. Make your opinion, say it on the radio, but don't try to be part of my sidelines.
Okay, but I don't think that's his right. And if it is, then why did his boss?
I don't think that the front office was right to do that, actually. I think they should have backed their coach. You don't have to do it publicly, but don't publicly say he's wrong.
It means something.
It means they don't like Jeff Fisher right now.
I think he's in trouble.
Yeah.
I think he's in trouble.
But I don't think Eric Dickerson should be trying to play both roles. That's not fair.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I like.
Have your opinion, but don't try to be one of the guys.
Well, maybe he wanted a sideline pass to do better reporting.
Go in the locker room then. Not every reporter gets a sideline pass.
So the players are uncomfortable. Jeff Fisher sort of denied that at a press conference. In fact, did deny it. And Eric Dickerson said, what are you doing? Don't insult me. I don't need to go to NFL games. Now, Christine's takeaway is don't ask for sideline passes and be one of the guys and then be a reporter.
Mm-hmm.
My takeaway is this is an awful look for Jeff Fisher, and he's getting away with losing seasons and whiffing on draft picks offensively because he's coached at Tennessee, St. Louis, and Los Angeles, which are highly distracted markets. If he was in a Denver where people live for the Broncos, Washington, where they live for the Redskins, Green Bay, Baltimore, where these markets pay close attention to the transaction wire, he would be in big trouble. But when you coach in Tennessee, which is a college football town, SEC country, when you coach in St. Louis with the Cardinals, I mean, St. Louis is the only major American city where you can talk spring training baseball and get a rating. And then you come to Los Angeles, and it's just such a distracted market. The Lakers and the Clippers and USC, and there's 40,000 people at beach volleyball tournaments. L.A. is ethnic and diverse, and the mountains and the beach and the shopping and the proximity to Vegas and San Diego and wine country. People here have a lot to do. They don't live and breathe. I think Jeff Fisher is very fortunate. I have nothing against Jeff, but this is a boring football team in a distracted market. You not only have to win, you have to be interesting here. This is not Tuscaloosa. There's just too much to do. In Alabama, you could win 7-6 every weekend and pack a stadium. In Los Angeles, Jerry Buss, the late, great Laker owner, was initially a college football fan. And he'd go to the USC games. And he watched the Song Girls. And he watched the Trojan Horse. And he said, if I ever own a pro sports team, I'm going to bring the college to the pros. So he created Laker Girls. He understood the market of Los Angeles. That's why they brought Gretzky here. It's 76 degrees. This is not the rural South. It's not small. It's not Lexington, Kentucky, where Kentucky basketball, the self-esteem of the city rises and disintegrates based on a Saturday college basketball game. People here, man, they bail if you're not interesting. They got stuff to do. They got cute girlfriends and wives. There's shopping and food everywhere. You can ski in an hour away or surf 25 minutes away. There's a lot to do. There's parks everywhere, beaches everywhere. So you got to be not only good, you got to be reasonably interesting. Rams are neither. I think Jeff Fisher's in a tough spot. Eric Dickerson, again, says basically Fisher called him and said, you're not welcome here. Here's Eric Dickerson.
The Ram fans, we don't have anything to scream for. I mean, L.A. is a city of winners. It's not a city of losers. I told them this when they came here. This is L.A. This is not St. Louis. You think you're the 7,000-pound gorilla? It don't work like that in this city. You got to come here to win. You can't come here thinking you're gonna go 6-10, 5-11, and think the city's gonna just jump behind you. It doesn't work like that.
He's right.
Totally fine to say, but if you've got nothing to scream for, don't try to go on the sideline with you and all your friends.
So I'm a member of the media.
Mm-hmm.
I can't call the Lakers and ask for tickets?
Of course you can.
Well, that's all he's doing.
No, it's not. He's trying to go every single game on the sidelines, which is a special privilege. Not every reporter gets to be on the sidelines. He wants to still be kind of one of the guys.
Well, he is a Hall of Famer for him.
He should be able to go to every game he can. But if you're going to be on the sidelines and like you're a member of the team, then you can't also go on the radio and criticize them and expect to be welcome with all your friends on the sidelines.
So you're pro Jeff Fisher on this?
Yeah, I actually am. And I think when he denied making the phone call, I don't think he should have denied it. He just said, I'm not going to talk about that. I don't have time for it.
Yeah, well, he got caught lying.
He did get caught lying. He should have just said, I don't have time to deal with this. I'm not talking about it. And that would have been the appropriate response. But I understand why he denied it, because he is losing right now. And he doesn't have time to deal with one guy who wants to come on the sidelines. And probably he is making some of the players uncomfortable.
Yeah, we just see this differently.
I just don't think you can play both roles.
So how often should I
Choose
be able
your
to
lane.
how often should I be able to call USC and ask for a ticket?
Do you want to go on the sidelines too? You didn't go to USC though. It's different. If you went
I'm using my
Yeah.
I'm using my quote celebrity or access to get special privileges.
To have tickets? Sure, but you're not also acting like you are part of USC and you played for them and you want to go to their team meetings and their practices.
Well, how do we know Dickerson wants to do that? He just wanted a sideline pass.
For his friends also.
How do you know that?
Sources.
All right.
Why is this Jeff Fisher's problem?
Yeah, Jeff Fisher shouldn't have
Why
to deal
isn't
with
this a PR guy or
Yeah.
some to be like?
Well,
no,
yeah, but Jeff
why
Fisher-
is he calling Eric personally?
Well, I don't like that
Because
at all.
probably nobody else would, and he's trying to take charge of the situation, which he shouldn't have to, which
You're-
tells me that the team probably isn't backing him up like they should.
You know what we need?
At least if he's their coach, you got to back him up while he's still your coach. If you want to fire him, fire him.
You know what we need in this situation?
What?
Somebody with a huge brain. Somebody that goes to Stanford. Christian McCaffrey. If it's funny about this, the media is not paying attention. Do you realize that right now, if you take out his return yardage, Christian McCaffrey's 174 yards per game is more than any of the last 4 Heisman Trophy winning running backs? That's not even counting his return yards. He's on pace to become the 5th player to lead college football in all-purpose yards in back-to-back seasons playing for a ranked team. He leads college football in all-purpose yards despite missing a game and a half. Why is he not up for the Heisman? Is anybody paying attention? You going to vote for the Louisville quarterback? Christian McCaffrey via the Cowherd Global Satellite Network. By the way, let me ask you. Your dad played in the NFL. You go to Stanford. You got an amazing coach, an amazing life. Does the Heisman mean, Christian, anything to you? I mean, what's its value to you?
Doesn't have a whole lot of value, to be honest with you. It would mean a lot to win an award like that. I think the voters this year have an extremely tough decision to make, too. There's so many great players right now to watch. It's going to be tough, but at the end of the day, it's about winning football games and doing whatever I can to help my team win. I think that's what the sport's always been about. And, I think you see a lot of great individual players who have great teams, who have great guys around them who help them do all that stuff. So just very fortunate enough to be able to play with some awesome players and have some success in my career.
You could have gone to anywhere, and you went to Stanford. Your brother Dylan is amazing. He's a 5-star quarterback. And Harbaugh wrestled him away to... Now, let me tell you, did you go to your brother and say, bro, Stanford, Palo Alto, Mark Zuckerberg, how do you say no? Did you try to wrestle him to Stanford over Michigan?
I didn't at all. No, I think it's his decision to make, and I think he's going to be an unbelievable player in the future, and can't wait to see what happens. And Harbaugh knows what he's doing when it comes to recruiting and getting players, and he just felt Michigan was the best choice for him. And I think it'll be great for him. I'm excited to see what he can do. He's a heck of a player. Him and my other little brother Luke play in the state championship this weekend over in Mile High. So I'm excited to watch him in his last game and be able to root him on in the future.
Christian, I've always said Stanford, if they ever offered one of my kids, I would just tell all the other coaches it's not competitive. They're going to go to Stanford. Like the last time we were scheduled to have you on, you had a midterm, and so you couldn't come on. Give me an idea. Is there an easy class that I could take at Stanford and get a B?
That's tough. I think there's an easy class, but I don't know if I'd describe it as easy. It's yoga with Nancy, and it's yoga meets every Wednesdays, and it sounds easier. Okay, yoga, I'll take it. Quick 2-unit class, probably take it in season. Get some stretching in. But I'll tell you what, man, that's one of the tougher classes I've taken. I got an A, but I don't know how limber you are. You might end up with a B there.
Yeah, I'm not limber. We'll just end it there. What is the toughest class? Have you ever gone into a class? You're a very good student. Have you ever gone into a class and thought, just like facing a great defense, wow, this is ridiculously hard?
Just about every day. I walk into class, wondering why I'm here or how I'm here. Especially when you got so many guys. I don't know if it's the class that necessarily scares me. It's just how quickly all the other students understand what's going on before me. So I'm constantly having to grind and get tutors and do the whole thing because half the time I'm lost in class. But when you're around a lot of people like that and you're in some pretty cool classes with some pretty cool people, it makes going to school fun and pretty motivating as well.
Your dad was a tremendous football player. It is remarkable. If you look at the lineage of your family, I'm not going to ask you about the NFL because you're a junior, but you've had remarkable success in your family. Take me back to you being 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. What do you remember about your dad being an NFL player, and what was it like to be a McCaffrey?
It's a very competitive household. A lot of sports going on at a lot of the same times, and I don't remember a whole lot. He retired when I was about 5 or 6, but I do remember a couple pictures just around the house and being able to go on the field after the games, after they would win in Mile High Stadium with my older brother. And, times like that were a blast. And there's pictures hanging up all over my house where you can kind of look back on and really appreciate that. I think there was one in Sports Illustrated after the Super Bowl. I think it was after they beat Green Bay.
Yeah.
And I had a curly afro, and there's confetti flying. I don't remember it, but just kind of looking back at that picture, knowing I was there, is pretty cool.
David Shaw has had opportunities to go to the NFL. Roger Goodell has said, David, would you leave? He stays at Stanford. How do you think, because you've only played at Stanford, what's David meant to you?
He's meant a lot. I think he's meant a lot, not just to me, but to this entire football team and entire football program and the school itself. He's an unbelievable coach. His awards, all of his record says for itself, his wins. But at the same time, I think just being the man he is, being the role model he's been to all of us, goes so beyond football. And I think that's what he's brought to Stanford and especially our football program is, he always says that two things that matter most is playing great football and graduating. And that's something that we take to heart. And, the fact that he cares so much, not just about football, but about the kind of men we are and about the kind of education we're getting. It speaks volumes to his character and to him as a leader.
Well, you were second in the Heisman last year. Taking out your return yards, you're averaging 174 scrimmage yards per game, more than any of the last 4 Heisman Trophy winning running backs. You got off to a little slow start this year. As the season goes on, I try to tell fans this all the time, is that last year I think you guys lost to Northwestern in the first week, and then by the end of the year you're a different football team. Try to explain to fans sometimes the difference between September and late. What happens to improve a team?
It's tough. It's tough to, especially when you lose a couple straight games to really bounce back. But I think that the best teams and the best football programs don't get down after losses, because I think it's very easy for fans and for a lot of the people in the media when someone loses a game or a team loses a game. They're hassling them, they're down on them, everybody's questioning them and freaking out and going up in arms. And we prepare for adversity all summer, all spring, all winter when we're training. During our runs, during our lifts, we prepare for tough times, and that's part of the game. You can't win them all. There's teams. Every team loses at least once in their career. If you haven't, then I applaud you. But I think it's something where you have two options after you lose. You can fold as a team and start blaming everyone and pointing fingers, or you can look yourself in the mirror and pick your head up and get back to the practice field on Monday and try to work out the kinks. And it's the best part about college football is that you got a game in a week. Win or lose, you can't celebrate too much, and you can't get down on yourself too much because you play pretty quick. And especially in our conference, you play a good team in about 6-7 days. So it's extremely important just to bounce back, not worry about it at all, and do whatever you can to win the next game.
Yeah, you guys are 9-3. USC's on fire. People buried the Pac-12 early. Stanford now's good. USC is good. We know Washington's good. Colorado's good, and Washington State will make a good bowl. Christian, an absolute pleasure. Just tell me the name of the next class you're going to. I want to be impressed. What is the class called that you go to next?
The next class is Physics 240.
Wow.
It's not what it all sounds out to be, but it's kind of tough.
Physics 2.
Intro to nuclear energy. Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. Good Lord.
What's your grade in that class right now?
What is your grade in that class?
I have an A. I love telling people I'm in that class, though, because don't let it fool you. It's a great class. You learn a lot, but it's you write 2 papers, one in the middle of the quarter and then one at the end of the quarter, 2 short papers, and that's it. But you do learn a lot, but I love telling people, oh my gosh, you have your reaction, and then you kind of tell them that it's only 2 papers, and but they're 2
papers graded on a curve at Stanford, and I'd get like a 16 out of 100.
About nuclear science.
Yeah, nuclear anything is tough. Christian McCaffrey, good luck to you. Say hi to the coach for us.
Sounds good. I appreciate you having me on.
You bet, bud. He's had a great year. I always laugh at these college football fans, like the SEC fans. Pipe down. Outside of Alabama, you don't have a top 20 team. Stanford now is 9-3. Colorado's good. Washington's good. USC's good. The Big Ten's the best conference this year. Pac-12 second. SEC is garbage outside Alabama. You don't even have coaches. You have gym teachers. SEC is garbage this year. It's garbage outside of Alabama. You don't have another top 20 program. Florida's going to get beat by 30 by Alabama. They won't score. They won't score against Alabama. I told you I was feisty.
You are.
I got Huncher lunch today. You and I just disagree on the Ram thing.
I think you kind of agree with me.
I'm not sure
I
if
think
I
you do.
Not strongly.
But a little bit. I see it.
A few years back, I discovered a small home security company. You know why nobody knew about them? Because they were created by a college kid. We just had Christian McCaffrey from Stanford. This kid was from Harvard. Yeah. He got robbed. And he said, I'm going to create a security system that's affordable and isn't tethered to your walls. So we created Simply Safe. Well, all these years later, they have the new Simply Safe security camera. It's different and it's new. It connects to the sensors in your alarm. Anytime your alarm detects anything, it records it. So you can see everything that happens at your house. And if somebody tried to break in, Simply Safe would not only call the police, you could use the video potentially as evidence. They've been around now a long time, a decade. Check out Simply Safe's new camera today at simplysafecolin.com, simplysafecolin.com. $14.99 a month, not tethered to your wall. There's no long-term lease or contract. simplysafecolin.com. Everybody believes their side is right. There is no arguing. Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan are all absolutely sure their team should get into the Final Four, and there is no arguing my candidate is best. All three are absolutely sure they're the only viable candidate. And the truth is, none of them are great candidates. Memo to all of the top three teams in the Big Ten. Don't kid yourself. None of you have a great standing, a referendum absolutely deserve to be in. None of you. The Big Ten had a great year. It's the best conference right now. The coaching is outstanding. The future is incredibly bright. Ohio State and Penn State bring back everybody. So mostly does Wisconsin. Get out of your echo chamber. Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State. None of you have an absolute argument to get in. Think they're the only team with injuries. Stop it. If I were to ask you as a fan, what are the most valuable positions in football? You would say quarterback, left tackle, cornerback, pass rusher. Dallas has lost all of them, multiple games. And they're 10-1. Packer fans they think they're the only team that gets hurt. Everybody in this league's a mess physically. So, one of the stories today that's kind of blowing up is that Eric Dickerson's a Hall of Famer. And Hall of Famers, I'm told, are allowed a sideline pass anytime they want in the NFL. If you're a Hall of Famer, there's only 300 of them, you can get a sideline pass for any game, every game, all you want. And so Jeff Fisher, according to Eric Dickerson told the LA Times, he said basically, Jeff Fisher called me and said, we're not comfortable having you on the sidelines. And so last night, Eric Dickerson was on the Jason Smith show on Fox Sports Radio last night. And Jeff Fisher called him and said, man, you can't be on the sideline. Well, he's a Hall of Famer. He can go on any sideline. And so Eric Dickerson's reaction, here it is.
They told me, well, we don't think we can because they feel uncomfortable with the stuff you said. I told them, look, I want to go to a football game about as much as I want to tie a bloody stake around my neck and jump in the Pacific Ocean butt naked. That's about how much I want to go to a football game.
Now, Christina argues, this is where you and I disagree, that because he's a reporter, he should not try to be one of the guys on the sideline.
If he's going to, he can't play both roles. If he's going to criticize the team, but then say also he's like part of the family, but goes so hard on their coach right now, whether or not he likes them or not, it's not benefiting the team to be criticizing the coach.
But he's a reporter.
It's almost like he wrote down, he's not a reporter. He's a radio personality. Are you a reporter?
Yeah.
You're not a reporter.
Well, I can't make stuff up.
No, you can't, but I would think
reporting.
we're more of like a personality.
Well, I'm a personality, but this cell phone, I don't have a bunch of, I got a bunch of big shots on this thing, and I text them all the time and say, what are you hearing?
Listen, he was trying to get passes for his friends to be on the sidelines. He says he doesn't want to be there. He's trying to get his buddies in, asking the Rams for favors while at the same time criticizing them very openly, which he can do, but, don't also try to be one of the guys. Because if Jeff Fisher, if what he's saying is true, that it makes the guys feel uncomfortable, then Eric Dickerson is not benefiting the team right now.
Yeah, but he's a Hall of Famer. He can go on that sideline if he wants.
Yes, he can. Go be on the sidelines, but don't also try to be one of the guys and say this is still his team.
So basically, you want a team where everybody says nice stuff and pat you on the butt.
Not at all. I think he's completely within his right to go on the radio, criticize them all he wants, but don't try to play both sides of the field.
But would they care if he was saying, like, I understand her point. It makes sense. You can't be, okay, I'm the Rams running back, so I'm going to be part of the team, and then also get paid as an analyst. But that doesn't make sense, because if he was saying positive things and they were 7-4,
they'd love it.
They would have no problem with it.
But that would be okay. That's okay.
So you only want former players if they suck up.
No, that's not true at all. He's chosen to be a radio personality.
He is.
So he can say whatever he wants.
Right.
But that also comes with, you can't then still be one of the guys and expect them to do nice things for you.
Yeah, but do we know that Dickerson's trying to be one of the guys?
Yeah. He's asking for passes for his friends.
Yeah, but that doesn't make you,
he's still talking like he's like one of the Rams.
I ask for passes occasionally. I hate doing this.
Uh-huh.
You know me. I don't like doing freebies. I pay for my own I pay for tickets.
Okay.
I don't like it. I'm not a fan. But occasionally, I will ask if my son's in town for a sideline pass. I'm not trying to be one of the guys.
But you're not asking. No, you're not. But there's a difference in the way that he's being. He's saying, "Hey, I'm part of the Rams. I was a Ram." You're not saying I played for USC and I want to have
but
these
that's
special
not
privileges.
true. What he's saying is, he did play for the Rams and I didn't. I wouldn't make that up.
But there's a big difference.
Do you think there's a difference, Goulet? Like, if Troy Aikman wants to hang out on the sideline of the Cowboys,
he should. My
only problem is when former athletes, are soft, and Dickerson's not, and Aikman's not, when they don't have anything to say.
Agree, completely.
Like, I get rid of those guys in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
I have just from working local, and you remember this too from doing local radio, I don't like when teams try to control what people say.
And they do.
And no, they do a lot, and that's the only problem I have with it. If he's being honest, that's what he's paid to do, right? He gets paid to analyze the
And by
Rams.
the way, this is Los Angeles. This is not Tuscaloosa.
Why is he so upset that Jeff Fisher called him and asked him not to be on the sidelines? If he doesn't want to, he just heard him say, I don't want to be at a football game. So what's the problem? Jeff Fisher called
You
and said,
wouldn't be upset if a Laker coach called you and said, I don't want you near my team because you're not saying nice things?
I used to be a Laker? Yeah, I would get it. That's the choice I made.
I wouldn't like. So Jeff Fisher.
But why is he raising such a? Like, Jeff Fisher called me and said I can't go to the games anymore. It just sounds petty.
It sounds like a coach called him.
It sounds like he transcribed the phone call. I mean, come on. You read it earlier. It seems like he took notes on every single detail.
Well, I mean, if Dickerson's ticked off, he's ticked off.
If I got a call,
he didn't want to go to the games anyways.
If I got a call from an NFL head coach about sideline passes, I'd probably remember that too, because that's really weird.
But would you make it that public?
Yeah,
there's no reason.
Listen, I'm not trying to take sides here.
Unless maybe him and the Rams are in some sort of cahoots to try to make Jeff Fisher look bad.
I don't know. I don't want to take sides on this. Rams aren't good and they're boring. And Eric Dickerson got called by the coach and said, stay away.
Yeah, so he should have said, thank you, I don't want to go.
So why did the front office come out and rip Fisher?
I didn't like that either.
So I got to tell you something. This does not look good for Jeff Fisher.
It does not.
It's bad optics. It's lousy optics.
But he shouldn't have to be dealing with this. And honestly, I really feel like until the team fires Jeff Fisher, you have to support him, and this is not supporting him.
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with former star players sucking up a little to get information and then also being critical. That doesn't bother me. That's what they should do. If Troy Aikman has to give...
It just doesn't seem very genuine.
If Troy Aikman has to ply Jerry Jones with a couple martinis to get information, I'm okay with that.
Sure.
As long as Troy's good on the air.
But then don't also stab him in the back and take notes on private phone call.
So you just want a bunch of cream puff announcers.
No, I don't. I don't like cream puff announcers at all.
Shouldn't Jeff Fisher consider this? This is not like even when I work in Tampa, and Tampa's like a city, right? Like not the sticks. There was like a Dodge dealer that played, because I said something about a team and he was a Florida State fan. He tried to muscle me. I was like, get lost. I literally get lost. This isn't Mayberry. The downside, like in small markets, the car dealer in Tuscaloosa can lean on like the local radio guy.
Yeah.
That's the word. It's true. Like in Eugene, Oregon, if you criticize the Ducks, they'll take passes away.
Right.
It's awful.
Right.
But this is Los Angeles. Jeff Fisher's got to know better. It's Los Angeles.
So what does he got to do better? What do you mean?
Don't worry about what former players say. Who cares? It's not Mayberry.
But if he is having to deal with so much that he feels like he has to call this guy and say, "Hey, I don't want you on the sideline. You're making things uncomfortable."
Okay.
Which it would. Why would you want that negative energy around your players who are trying I believe in negative energy.
Oh, I don't.
Why would you want all of that
here's
next to your guys on the sidelines? If you want to say that, cool. Go sit up in the press box. Go get your tickets. You can be on the sidelines, but why are you bringing all
I'm
your
gonna bring
friends?
Dickerson
if we're
on
so
the-
awful, why are you down here?
This is more from Eric Dickerson from the Jason Smith Show on Fox Sports Radio on where the issue is stemming from.
I always say, look, it runs downhill. It don't run uphill. You know, it starts at the very top. And who's the top? The top of our organization right now is Kevin Demoff. And I take a hard look at him. It is what it is. And I mean, it's just, I always say these suits try to run football, or they try to run football teams. They don't know football. They know the day-to-day. They know how to sell PSLs and stuff. They don't know, who can coach, who can play. They like, oh yeah, he can jump so high. He got a great vertical. Man, that don't mean nothing. Look like Tarzan, play like Jane. That's what it is.
Well, the suits just defended him, so I don't know why he's calling out the suits.
Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
Did you know this? The Cowboys can actually clinch a playoff spot this weekend if these things happen. If they beat the Vikings Thursday, or either Tampa Bay loses or ties, or Washington loses. So a lot of things would have to happen there, but they could clinch a playoff spot. And what happens if they clinch home field early? We get into a situation of, do you rest Tony Romo, or rest Dak Prescott and put in Tony Romo? If they clinch home field early.
I would in week 16, I would put Romo out there and I would have him throw for 350 yards and I would say, here NFL teams that stink at quarterback.
Oh, I see. Okay.
No,
okay.
I would take him out week 16. Dulé thinks this is ridiculous.
Why?
If he throws for 350 and a bunch of touchdowns, what happens then? You're going to have people arguing then that he should just be the starter.
No. We'll just say, Tony, here's the deal. You want to play, and you're not going to play here. So we're going to give you one game. I don't care if you throw for 8,000 yards. You're not going to play here. It's a showcase game for you to pick up some yards. It will allow us to get a better draft pick. It'll allow us to move you.
Yeah, but Goulet's right. It will have a lot of people saying, see how good he is?
Fragile.
Put him in.
Be careful. Like that could.
That's
What
true
if he
too.
gets? What if he snaps in half again?
Snaps in half.
Yes, he could.
Ridiculous.
Tom Brady's son, Benjamin Brady, got on the phone while his father was doing a radio interview, and he gave us a lot of information. He's 6 years old, by the way.
Did you watch your daddy play yesterday?
Yeah, he was playing against the green guys. I don't know what they're called, but they're very good.
How did you think your dad did yesterday?
Great. Flipped his chest,
He flipped his chest.
and he tripped, too.
He sure did. He got tripped a few times, didn't he?
And he got even more hurt.
Hey, more hurt. Wow. Maybe you'll tell us what's wrong with him.
I don't know. He's like a donkey.
In what way?
In a crazy way.
Kids are so honest.
Our little son's the best. God, they're funny.
I bet your son was like that when
Oh,
he was
God,
6.
he was adorable. I mean, obviously, I'm a dad. My kids are great.
No, he's cute. He was talkative. I was trying to do the same thing those radio listeners were doing to him. I was trying to do the same thing about
My
you.
son never stopped talking. He's very
I love
funny.
it, though. I wonder where he gets that from.
Yeah, I don't know.
3 hours. Keeps talking. Derrick Rose had a season-high 30 points last night for the Knicks, even though they lost to Oklahoma City. And this just brings up a lot of great points here. He's actually averaging 17 points per game. And I know you love stats, Colin, so I'm going to give you some more. 5 assists, 4.5 rebounds, shooting 44% from the field. Pretty on par for what he's doing in the career. So that shows me that he's consistent. And I know how much you love and appreciate
Point guard.
consistency.
Right?
Consistency. No highs, no lows. Just be consistent.
Under 5
How much
assists.
is that worth?
Under 5 assists a game.
How much is that worth?
None. You couldn't pay me to have Derrick Rose as my point guard. Under 5 assists a game. He's got the ball in his hands. Under 5 assists. What's he shooting, by the way?
44%. I just said that.
Whoop-de-doo. What's LeBron shoot? Whatever he wants to.
You can't compare everyone to LeBron. Not everyone's going to be LeBron. But I ask you how much you think that's worth, because the Knicks reportedly are considering paying him $75 million over 3 years, which would be a raise.
Oh, God.
You're just going to hide over there?
They're so poorly run. Oh.
And finally, Tim Tebow has a new book coming out. It's called Shaken, and he describes a situation that happened with Bill Belichick while he was on the Patriots, and he was offered an endorsement deal.
Well, I didn't want to be a distraction on the team. I wanted to be just another guy in the locker room, someone that could work, someone that could be a backup to Tom. And I didn't want to be a distraction, having stuff all over the headlines. And so that's why I called Coach Belichick to say, hey, what do you think about this? This is a great opportunity that I would say yes to, but I want to, I want to do what's right for the team first. And he just, appreciated me calling, but said, hey, listen, I would have preferred if you didn't do it. So of course I didn't, because it would put the team first. And that's not something that I look back and regret at all. It was, me trying to honor the team, and if I could do it again, I would have done the same thing.
Here's the thing, he was cut a couple weeks later. So he turned down this $1 million endorsement, and then he got cut.
I like him as a person.
Yes? Is that an argument?
Not a quarterback. I like him as a person. I liked him.
The way I looked at this story was, if you're Bill Belichick, you know what you're getting yourself into when you sign Tim Tebow, a lot of the media and the hype, right? He allows Tom Brady and other guys to do endorsements, and then Tim Tebow comes and says, hey, I've got an opportunity to make $1 million on this, and he says no, and then cuts him a couple weeks later. That's pretty harsh.
Bill Belichick signed Tim Tebow for one reason. Who's one of Belichick's best friends? Urban Meyer.
But why would he do that and then cut him?
He told Urban he'd give him
a chance, and then he gave him the chance, and it didn't work.
Yeah. Urban.
But then if you know you're going to do that,
well,
maybe let him sign the deal.
Standards and rules, Christine. Very, very strong standards and rules. Christine with
Agree.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
I want to break early because we have Huncher lunch today, and it's going to be fun. I have to guess the lines.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't done this in a couple of weeks, so I'm going to guess the lines with Huncher lunch. So we'll break just a little bit early. I want to play this, though. I didn't take much from the Packers-Eagles last night. I don't buy that Green Bay's back. People don't confuse what you want to be true from the truth. Green Bay's an average team. They have a good offensive line and a good quarterback. We knew that going into the game. Philadelphia is a mess on the offensive line. They have a rookie quarterback. But John Lynch came on earlier, and I thought it was interesting. He said, listen, with Carson Wentz, he's now regressing. Okay? Is it better to just sit Wentz until next year? Because the Eagles' offensive line is in shambles, and their receiving corps is weak. And this is John Lynch on why Carson Wentz isn't progressing as he should.
No, I think he's regressing each and every week. I mean, we watched a guy come into this league in the first, I forget what the spread was, how many weeks it was. He was performing as well as he was a top 5 quarterback in this league. I think he's got a lot of talent. I think he's got it up here. He was NFL ready because he ran an NFL offense, but it's just too much pressure. Now you have an offensive line that's imploding. Now, when they can stay in games, like I saw him a couple weeks ago, and they ran for 200 yards, he's going to be okay. But when you're asking him last night, when you get behind, it's just a bad deal now, and he is going backwards.
He is. So this is the tough part for John Elway with Paxton Lynch and Jeff Fisher with Jared Goff. If you put them in, you're putting them in because you're desperate. You don't want to play a rookie a first year. And the question becomes, do they regress? Now, Derek Carr went 0-10, didn't regress. But are you hurting the development of Carson Wentz playing him? I mean, John Lynch has been in that locker room. He's talked to coaches. He's been at these games. He's played in this league. He thinks he's regressing. Are you hurting the future to win in the present? Didn't hurt Peyton Manning. Didn't hurt Derek Carr, but it hurt David Carr. Coming up next, Huncher Lunch. Guys, if you're wondering whether your shirt's too long to wear untucked, probably is. Untuckit.com. Solve your Lincoln Kennedy, Christian McCaffrey. We haven't done Huncher Lunch in a couple of weeks, and Christine and I have just disagreed all day on this Eric Dickerson thing.
I really think you agree with me.
I don't think I do at all.
Deep down, you really do.
I'm for players sucking up as long as they're good broadcasters and bring information to me and the public that I wouldn't otherwise have. I don't care if
Did he bring to you any information?
He was on the show last week. He was very good. I'd have him on tomorrow if he'd like to come on.
I really appreciate it when people give you face value. You know, they are what they say they are.
Well, who's not?
I feel like he's being two-faced.
I think Jeff Fisher is.
Why?
Because he lied on a press conference. Eric didn't lie.
What is he supposed to say? He shouldn't even have to answer that question.
That's like a guy who cheats on his wife. Well, what is he supposed to say when she corners him?
The truth.
Yeah, that's what Jeff Fisher should have done.
But why? He didn't do anything wrong.
He lied. That's wrong.
No, what he did was lie. He didn't do anything wrong before
Here's what Jeff Fisher was asked if he talked to Eric Dickerson. Here's what Jeff Fisher said.
I don't know where that's coming from.
Oh, really?
I had a really good conversation with Eric last week.
You probably did.
You know, as I did with Jackie Slater. And I had a good personal visit out here with Jack Youngblood. And we welcome the alums. We welcome
that's not accurate.
History.
Did you welcome on Sunday?
He's always welcome. Yeah,
come on, that's disingenuous.
Love to have him come in. Love to have him come to practice.
But you're okay,
No,
guys.
he shouldn't have
come in the meetings.
Anybody who dates Christine, just lie to her. She's okay with it.
No, I'm saying he shouldn't have done that. He should have just said, I'm not talking about that because I have more important things to focus on. He should have gone all Bill Belichick on him.
I got a bunch of guys that want to date you now. They can just lie anytime. You don't care.
Now?
All right, whatever. Let's do Hunter lunch.
Come on! Colin's got a hunch.
Tell me you weren't thinking this too.
If he's less than 50%,
that is nothing.
We'll get lunch. It's hunch or lunch in the herd.
All right, 7 games. I got to get 4 right within a point. Fire away, John.
Or Christine. Cowboys at Vikings. Number 1. I mean, Galay can read them to you if you want.
It's been so long.
You might have better luck with him.
So this is the Thursday game, but both teams are still on a full week's rest because they both played last Thursday.
Cowboys minus 3.5.
Nailed it. Right on.
Yeah. That feels like like if I was an odds maker, Dallas is better, but I'm not on that Thursday night TV game short week. You're just going to give them that little hook, 3.5.
Okay, Chiefs at Falcons.
And that's tough. Atlanta's favored. Oh, that's tough. Kansas City's won 18 of 21 games. I would say Atlanta. Chiefs at Falcons. Atlanta minus 3.5.
Right on again.
Really?
I figured you wouldn't guess the same number twice in a row.
Dude, you're dealing with Stephen Hawking here, okay?
You're scaring me.
Brains the size of a picnic ham.
Do you know that it's like the smaller your brain, the smarter you are?
That's ridiculous. That's what people with small brains who are dumb think.
I'm just going to let that sit there. Rams at Patriots. This is interesting. How big?
Oh, Rams at New England?
Yeah.
Now with this distraction, is that baked in?
I'll give you a hint. It's not 3.5.
I wonder if Eric Dickerson can go be on the sidelines.
But you know what? I'll tell you something. New England's offense isn't the same. I got to tell you something. If it's over this number, I'm going to take it in my blazing 5. New England minus 9.5.
13.5.
Oh, that's a stupid number. That is ridiculous. I'll take the Rams 13.5.
Really?
New England's offense isn't really good right now.
Isn't really good?
It's okay. Gronk's not going to play. They're going to settle for a lot of field goals against the Rams. It's going to be like that game's going to be like 23.
That would be great for my fantasy team. Dolphins at Ravens.
That's a good game. Dolphins at the Ravens. If you just tuned in, Hunch or Lunch, 7 games, got to get 4 by a point or closer. Dolphins at the Ravens.
Yeah.
Baltimore minus 2.
Just stuck with your number, 3.5.
Oh God! Now you're manipulating me
a little bit.
I don't even appreciate what's
That's our
happening
job.
right now.
You're at 2-2 now.
Okay.
Buccaneers at Chargers.
God, that's tough. You
Manipulation.
can do that 3.5 thing again.
We're not going to tell you.
Listen, Tampa's not a team that can win on the road. San Diego scores a lot of points. I'm going to go San Diego minus 4.
Right on.
Oh,
Once
wow,
again.
right on?
Right on.
Wow. I feel good about
that. For that. Okay, so if you get one more right, then you win.
All right.
Giants at Steelers.
Again, that's a hard game, man. Pittsburgh's defense is not good enough for a big number. They'll be favored. Are you just screwing with me? Pittsburgh minus 3.5.
Ooh.
6.
Ooh, that's
Minus
a big.
6.
That's a big. I'll tell you, that tells you what Vegas doesn't respect the Giants. That's what it tells you, that I'm right about the New York Giants.
Exactly.
Vegas doesn't respect them. That's a big number for an 8-3 team to go on the road and be a 6-point dog against a team that's hot and cold. That's disrespect to the Giants. That's reality what the Giants are. A 6-point dog at 8-3.
They proved you right.
What team in the league's 8-3 be a 6-point dog to a 500 team? That's about what Pittsburgh is, right?
Okay, for all the money, Colts at Jets.
God, that's
Luck is expected to play.
All right.
Why are you saying that?
If I'm within a
Because he's
point,
going to ask.
God, I really don't want to buy lunch.
You haven't
You
had
also
to in
should
the
start
past 3
buying
weeks.
these lunches you owe
Yeah,
us.
and you skipped
That
this
would help.
competition.
There's no reason to tell the public that.
We appreciate authenticity.
Okay, can I
over
just
here.
ask, are the Colts favored?
I'm not telling you that.
Of all we've been through, I hired you. You wouldn't give me that? You wouldn't give me even
Start paying up on these lunches, and maybe I'll give you hints.
You know, this is
True,
why
we have no reason.
this is why I resent you.
Because of Punch or Lunch.
Yeah, because this kind of gamesmanship, I don't appreciate
Are
it.
you going to sleep okay tonight?
I slept
I'm
good.
worried about you.
My wife got new covers last night.
Did she?
A big down comforter.
That was so nice of her.
I had to beg her.
To get a new comforter?
I've got typhoid fever over here because I'm sleeping under a saran wrap.
Why couldn't you go get a new comforter?
I'm very busy.
Why does she have to do that?
That's what wives do. All right.
Oh,
What?
Colin.
What? No more
You're
sense
lucky,
of humor?
You're lucky we have about a minute left.
There's no
in this
sense
show.
of humor in America anymore.
We're all offended by everything.
Okay, what's the game again?
Oh, it's Colts at Jets.
Colts at the Jets.
Yes.
Colts minus 2.5.
Serves you right. Serves you right.
-1. You just missed it.
And you know what? Ann should take away your blankets tonight.
Well, she
for
had.
that.
First of all, Ann, I don't even know why she did this. We came to California, and she decided we can sleep under a thin layer of aluminum foil. I've been freezing for a year.
Maybe that's your problem.
I've always got a sore throat. I told her, I'm sick all the time.
You think because you're cold while you sleep, you have a sore throat?
That's exactly why I have it. Why else would I have it?
I don't know. Maybe you talk for 3 hours a day?
I talk my whole life. I never had a sore throat. I have a sore throat every day here.
Maybe it's because the studio's cold.
It's
and then
not,
you go out to the
I'll
warm
tell you what
heat.
it is. It's having to sleep. It's having to sleep under a thin layer of deli paper. So last night she got a gigantic comforter.
She'll show you.
Honest to God, I almost called in sick today. It was so comfortable. It was ridiculous. I'm going to go home today. I'm going to go home and go right to bed at
Sounds
2 in
like
the
fun.
afternoon. It's the best.
She's the best.
She is the best. She is the best.
I'm glad
All right.
we're on that
I'm
page.
tired of you guys. I don't even know if I like my staff anymore. It's really been an awful day. I don't even like coming to work anymore. All right. Speak for yourself later, among other things. I'm going to go have a
Sleeping.
sandwich. Go to bed. Sorry.